ages. In fact, this presentation is not going to be linear. Can you imagine if I said, research has shown that vitamin B12 may be appropriate for those experiencing low energy. We'd all be asleep within 10 minutes. All of a sudden it'd be 5 o'clock, we're out of here. So we're not going to get into any of that. We're going to get into it holographically, where pieces will come from all different parts, and it will start to paint a picture. Okay, so the sedimentary predisposition that we have is causing the arthritis, the strokes, the heart attacks, which is still killing more people than cancer. What's the number one killer in this country? It's not cancer. It's not all cancers combined, is it? What's the number one killer? Heart disease, still. What's that? Plaque formation. That's what I'm talking about. Sedimentary predisposition. Materialist mindset or belief systems starts to excrete sediment into our body. Meaning that we're only a material body, we're a killer naked egg, and there is no spirit, there's no anything, emotion, that's some woman thing, we don't deal with that. Right? That stuff. And as much as you think, like, we're still dealing with that stuff, you bet we're still dealing with that stuff. And one of the things that I've found is the reason why we have a Monsatan or Monsanto, Moon, Saturn, Monsatan, Monsanto, Moon, Saturn. Look into it. The reason why we're dealing with this is because most of the population is still, at least 82%, is still into this belief that we're only a material body. That there is no spirit, there's no higher power, whatever, nature, God, creator, source, whatever, and it's just, and we're all an accident. This materialism excretes debris or plaque into our body, and it starts there with the belief in it. As soon as you get out of that belief, you start going, oh, okay, I don't need to be stressed out because I'm not in a materialistic survival of the fittest BS. Remember that story? Survival of the fittest, what is that? Well, it's the fit survive. Okay, who are they? The ones who survive. They're the fittest. Okay, it's a tautology, right? Who survives? The fittest. Who are they? The ones who survive. Okay, how do they survive? Because they're the fittest. All right. It makes no sense. It has no absolute logic. There's no logic to it at all. So what it ends up, it turns into social Darwinism, which is I better beat you out of this position because I need to fight my way to the top and get to the top of the pyramid. And that is the crux of it. Now, as much as I don't know what your background is or how much you're dealing with this, but I can tell you that what I'm dealing with, I get descended upon by trolls. And they're scientism trolls. What does that mean? It means people who believe that the Richard Dawkins naked ape theory is a fact. People who believe that the pill for every pill is a fact. People who believe that peer-reviewed journals can't be mistaken or can't be corrupted by fraud, and they believe that the peer-review conclusion is a fact. And I got to hear something for you. It's not a fact. If you want me to get into peer-reviewed journals and the problems with it, I just published a thing. I put it on my Twitter feed. I always put the more crazy stuff on Twitter. Twitter's a fun. But, you know, it's just if it's crazy, you know, like normal people can't deal with it. Like 107 articles were pulled out of the peer-reviewed journals because there was fraud. 107 articles just on cancer. Just on cancer. Were pulled because of fraud. Later, down the road, they went, this is fraud. This was actually not correct. But it was all peer-reviewed. It was all in journals. You see what we're dealing with? Corruption has penetrated every aspect of our life and matriculates, in particular, which way? To the top. And that's why we're in trouble. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually realize that all of us have available to us infinite possibilities. We all have infinite availability of medicines for us. That the medicine, the best things for us are usually growing in the front yard. That the weeds that are popping up is like God saying, hey, here's your medicine right there. What do? We mow it down, chop it, get rid of it, chop the tree down. It really is like that. My experience with healing is that everything is always immediately presented to you. There's never a situation where you don't have the opportunity in front of you. In fact, what you have to do, and this is my experience, I'm going to tell you my dad's story in a second, you have to reject it. Constantly. So there's this constant thing of like, oh no, I can't believe in that, I'll reject it. Oh, those weeds in my front yard, that can't be medicine because I'm against it because I was taught in school that I have to go to a doctor. Right? Does herbal medicine work? You better believe it works, but it can't do a thing for you unless you take it. Would eating weeds work? It sure would, but you have to actually eat them. And I love taking ideas and concepts and making it real. Because when you actually eat that dandelion, you're actually eating it. You know something. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, something's happening here. This is different. We're going to get into some incredible discoveries. And these discoveries do transform you as an emotional being. They transform you as a mental being. They transform you as a spiritual being. I've been so far in this scene for so long that until I got blasted up to the top of social media, I didn't really realize what we were dealing with. Now I know what we're dealing with. These people are religious fanatics. Now you're thinking, no, that's radical Islam. No, this is like the Crusades, radical Christianity. No, this is like radical Judaism, Zionism, something like that. No. The problem that we're facing is radical, fundamentalist religion, but it's not what you think it is. It's people who believe that evolution is a fact, and the pill for every ill is a fact. And I got news for you. Those are all theories, and they're pretty much at this point disproven theories if you really investigate. Oh no, this guy was battling me on Twitter. I'm like, look at this book, read that book, look at this book, how about this book? This is what he came back with me on. This is how he came back. He said, oh, I can't read that book because that was written by a creationist. It's like, look, we're doing science. I don't care if the person's a creationist, evolutionist, I don't care if they're in the middle, I don't know, or whatever. And by the way, this idea that it's just those two choices is also very dogmatic and bizarre. There's just, that or that. That right there tells you there's a problem. Right? It's not either just that or just this. Right? It's probably something we can't even comprehend. And just the inability, right there, he blocked me. He blocked me right there. I was like, you can't read someone's work if they're a scientist because they're a creationist. You can't look at that objectively. Like, what's wrong with you? You're so wound up in your own belief system that you can't look at somebody else's belief system. This is what's causing us to be ill, right there. That is the crux of it. And the illness that precipitates from that, our inability to dogmatic fundamentalism, is causing us to excrete sediment into our system, which is called calcification, or it's called plaque formation, and it is the cause of strokes, it is the cause of heart attacks. What's the heart of a tumor? The hardness. Plaque. Right? And if you start looking at it, you're like, oh, the arthritis, what's that? Plaque. And then it starts to come together. Rudolf Steiner warned us of this 90 years ago. He said, if we continue down this materialism trend, we'll have an epidemic of cancer, heart disease, strokes, and arthritis that will topple, it will be bottom of the line. And is that what we're dealing with? You bet, it's what we're dealing with right now. So we got to get back into the middle, right? Which is that God force, that the creative force. We have to be careful about parasitic energies and about becoming judgmental. Because as soon as we become judgmental, we are immediately driven to one side or the other. Right? As soon as we believe we know something, then we're saying, I'm God and I know what to do. Do we actually know anything? I'm also a student of Charles Fort, which I really recommend if you're a researcher. You dig into Charles Fort's research. His 4 books are classics of all time. He spent 25 years in the London City Library and the New York Public Library. This is in the 1910, 1920, 1930, 25 years in a library, just pulling up stuff, digging into things, researching stuff. What he uncovered is, whatever your belief system is, it will shatter it. Which is indicating that we need to get out of believing in things and get into entertaining possibilities instead. People are like, do you believe in this? It's like, I'm trying to get out of believing in stuff. Right? I'm trying to get into, I'll entertain that as a possibility, but I don't know. Because we don't know. Because I'm not God, I don't know. So I'm entertaining it as a possibility. Do you see the difference? The belief system has an emotion attached to it. Whereas the entertaining possibilities is like fun. Like, oh, we can look at this. This is cool. Let's explore. Let's do some experiments. Let's check it out. Let's create a theory. Now, if we get into that, then we start getting back into that middle, the creative force, where we're in a state of awe and wonder, and we start healing. And that we're actually connected to God, because only God knows, or whatever, higher power, source, energy, whatever your interpretation of that is. We don't know. We're just, we're little underlings down here, so we're just trying to figure it out. And therefore we have to surrender to, hey, we don't know. And being able to surrender to not knowing is a very important part of maturity. And if we had to identify where we are as a human race, we're the crazed teenager right now. Right? We're like 15, maybe 14. We're right in that zone right there. And we're causing all kinds of havoc in the home, aren't we? So we're coming through that stage, and we're coming through a maturity stage. And it's going to come to a head in this century. It will definitely come to a head in this century. Because can we take more of this pollution? We cannot. I've been telling some of these gals about the amount of pollution in our environment. This is important for what we're going to get into later. Guess what it is? You ready for this one? I did a little research. I was writing an email for my email list. And I wanted to get into how big our pollution problem really is, which is, it's daunting. It's really hard to accept it. The amount of synthetic, manufactured chemicals that is produced and put into the environment. This has nothing to do with like burning coal. This has nothing to do with like, burning diesel or whatever. This is just manufactured synthetic chemicals that are put into the environment every year, like glyphosate. Is per year in the world is 5 trillion pounds per year. 5 trillion pounds per year. So I suspect, trying to be in the middle here, if I'm going to play around with the theory, that one of the things we need to be looking at is toxicity and its relationship to health troubles. Isn't that something we should probably explore? You not even believe. I'm in it. I'm battling doctors, scientism, maniacs, scientists online, and they don't get that. They absolutely oppose it. There's another thing they don't get. Water's different. The water coming out of a tap is very different than the water coming out of the Malvern Spring. Is that the name of it? Right? Sorry, I'm going to take the spring water every day of the week, including Tuesdays. Right? They can't get that. They can't even comprehend that there's a difference between this water and that water. That's what we're up against. Now, you think that is some little section of society that's like 1%? No, it's 80 to 90% of our civilization believes that tap water is just fine. That the corrosion in the pipes is just a myth. I had a gal from Long Island have all these health troubles. We were doing that like this all day event. And that was close to her home, so she went home for lunch. And I said, go down to your basement, take a wrench, and bang the pipes in the basement. All your water pipes. Bang, 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 all around the basement. And then turn your water on, and then bring me that water. And guess what came out of those pipes? Calcium and iron sediment. Because this materialization and sedimentary idea actually really strongly is connected to the way we treat water. Right? Water likes to do this and roll like that and do this. And you never see water going in a straight line unless it's some unnatural human thing. And then this thing like this, watch, water goes like this, and then the right angle turn, then this. Completely unnatural. We have lost so many fights we don't even know. Like, if I talk about the fight in Europe and in this country to pipe the entire country in wood, you never even heard that before, and you don't even realize that battle was so lost, we got our butts kicked so badly that we never even heard that. But if you look into it, you'll find out that instead of smelting copper out of the earth and making copper straight pipes, that this country could have originally been piped and was partially piped in wood that was fitted together and screwed together. So they'd hollow out a log and then screw that one into the next one, into the next one. And those pipes would last 100 years and keep water happy because it's flowing through wood, which has natural perturbations and natural vortex actions possible over the pipe. We never even heard that. That's how badly we got our butts kicked. We got our butts kicked so badly for so long that now we're in a serious crisis. And it's an environmental crisis, which is really coming from upstairs, isn't it? It's starting in here. What are we going to do? Well, the first thing we have to do, it's like in an airplane. Something happens in an airplane, the mast drops down. What do you do first? Put on the child first? Who first? You first. Why is that? That's right. Because if you can't save yourself, you can't save anybody else. So now we're in such a crisis that if we don't take care of ourselves, we're done for. That's the end. And now the first steps is what we're going to get into right now this morning. And the first step is nature's solution to pollution is dilution. 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 Look at that. Christopher comes up with the wooden pipes. That's the best ever. Hydration. We've got to get hydrated. And hydration is a very interesting conversation because if you drink water, sometimes we get dehydrated. Does anybody notice that? 8 glasses of water, and then you're still dehydrated. How's that? How's that possible? Drinking water all day long, still dehydrated. How could that be? Well, there's 2 pieces to that puzzle, and we have to thank Dr. Batman Galich. This guy was from Iran, so my mom's from Tehran. So we're Baha'is from Tehran. That's where I came from. I was raised as a Baha'i, and my family's also Zoroastrian. So we were the non-Islamic part of Iran. So we got basically thrown when that Ayatollah came in. We were out of there. That was the last I ever went there. And what happened is that Dr. Batman Galich was still there, and he was practicing medicine. It was like natural medicine, and the Ayatollah wasn't really happy about that, and basically threw him in jail. So he's in jail for practicing natural medicine. And because, it's material science and fundamentalist religion is connected. As much as you think they are not, I want you to start meditating on it. When a fundamentalist radical believes in facts, someone in the middle believes in probabilities. That's different. You see the difference? This is, you're this, then you have to take this. It's called the one-size-fits-all vaccine. It's called the one-size-fits-all pill. It's called the one-size-fits-all surgery. It's the one-size-fits-all whatever. Does one-size-fit-all in diet? Nope. Does one-size-fit-all ever? Nope, never. So it's a probability. When I'm talking, I got on TV with a NutriBullet, and I'm talking to millions of people, right? In a single weekend, I hit 100 million people on social media and on television. When you're dealing with that, you can't say this is the right thing for everybody because that's ridiculous. The whole thing's absurd. You can't say this is the right thing for everybody. So you have to work with probabilities. We know that reishi mushroom has tremendous history of research, and I know it's going to work for over 90% of the population. Not everybody, but over 90% of the population. So I feel comfortable recommending that. Right? I know that chocolate is going to work for 80% of the population. There's people in this room, they'll react to chocolate, can't handle it, it's too much of a stimulant, whatever, right? Is that true? Right in this room? Absolutely, of course. Because it's a probability. Now, there's people in this room like me that I'll eat chocolate every day. I'll eat 1 ounce of chocolate, 2 ounces of chocolate, sometimes 3 ounces. It's the right medicine for me. It's probably the right medicine for a lot of us in this room. But does that mean everybody? Absolutely not. So this one-size-fits-all story is really a tragedy, and it's gnarly, and now we have to deal with it. So we have to protect ourselves. Now, in the hydration equation, for most of us, we need to drink more water, but like Dr. Batman Galich found out in jail, he found out that if you keep people drinking water, their problems get better. The arthritis gets better, the heart disease gets better, right? All of a sudden they have more fluid. It's like, oh my God, I feel better, I have more energy. But then they started getting dehydrated because they were missing what? Salt. So water and salt is the basis. Does that mean Morton's iodized salt? No. What kind of salt is natural for a human being? Sea salt. If you live in the interior of Europe and you have no access to a sea, if you live in the interior of North America, you have no access to a sea. If you live in the interior of Africa, you have no access to a sea, then you're going to find, especially in deserts, whole regions that have natural salt beds because nature provides what is needed at all times. I am absolutely convinced of that. My experiences show me it doesn't matter where I am in the world, all the medicines and everything I need are always right there in the immediate vicinity, and it's always like immediately there. It's not like I even have to look very hard. See how isn't that a great mindset? You get yourself in that mindset, all of a sudden everything is just right there. We're going to get into this a little bit more. So it's water and salt, water and sea salt, and that's the electrolyte thing. What's sea salt? It's basically electrolytes. What do you need electrolytes for? blood electricity, right? So you actually can have energy. And then this combination with the water and the electrolytes, you actually get hydrated, then you don't need as much water. Because that's important in this world today, because I'm very concerned about the quality of our water, even spring water. With the fracking going on, I mean, you talk about satanic. I don't know what evil is, but I definitely know that that's evil. Like you're ruining the water table for generations to come. You're putting 100 chemicals into the water table, injected 8,000 feet below the ground. I mean, that is insanity that's beyond anything we can even comprehend. And that's why we've got to get together and stop it. Because if we don't stop it, we'll screw it up for 10,000 years into the future. Not really want to do that, I don't know about you, but it's one thing about just screw it up for this generation, but to keep screwing it up for 10 generations or 100 into the future is something we're headed there, and we may even be there already. Water and salt is where we start for our own healing. And that means you need to have the right amount of sea salt. Now, for example, in the summertime when it's hot, you can have more salt because salt's cooling. You would never cross the deserts of Iran, ever, without salt. That's insanity. You talk to Persians, they're like, you don't have salt with you? You're trying to cross the desert? You're a maniac. Anybody who lives in a desert environment knows you have to have salt. You're going to become dehydrated, and eventually you're done for. You have to have enough water. The salt is what holds it onto you. Now, this is how crazy our world is. The saltiest waters in the world, like the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, the Arabian Peninsula, the Arabian Sea there, the Strait of Hormuz, that region, it's the saltiest waters in the world. It's also some of the hottest areas in the world. So the salt, in my opinion, is probably there to hold the water on so it doesn't evaporate off. That's why it's saltier there. When I say saltier, I'm talking 3 times saltier than the ocean normally is. The ocean is 46 or 47 times saltier than the saltiest rivers on Earth. The scientism trolls have attacked me for stating that. So I come back with, you give me an explanation of how the ocean can be saltier, 46 times saltier than any river on Earth. Where's the salt coming from? Right? Of course, there's no answer to that. But it's just amazing what we are dealing with basically, it's a bunch of fanatic know-it-alls who actually have no idea that they're a fanatic, and they have no idea that they're a know-it-all. That's what we're dealing with. So there's a connection between salt and cooling and hydration. And you need the right balance of both. As we go into winter, you go less salt and you have more water, right? It's that balance. When you're hydrated, you don't need as much water, so therefore you don't get exposed to as much, because you're drinking 8 glasses of water a day, you're exposing yourself to God knows what's in that water. I mean, we know that like London tap water, we've heard that story. What's in London tap water? Toilet paper? No kidding. And you ready for it? It's used toilet paper. No kidding. Number 1 contaminant in tap water in this aisle right here. Number 1 contaminant in tap water is used toilet paper. That one's the best. Shouldn't you look into it, dig in, and you're going to go, whoa. Do you want to be drinking used toilet paper? I don't. I'm going to say no to that one. But we've also found evidence. What is the other stuff we found out? Drugs, cocaine, heroin, loaded in the water. What else? Contraceptives. What else? Antibiotics, urine, pharmaceuticals, hormones. It's freaking loaded. So purify your water. Yes, grander water systems. Like we're at the Milestone Detox last night. We'll be there tonight. What a great place. And thanks for hosting us. That was great. Great to do a detox, by the way. I got off that plane. You know, when you can't move around, and some of you, wheelchair bound or injured, or you can't move very well, to go get a colonic, like what we had over there, and get your lymphatic fluid drained, because what happens is you start accumulating lymphatic fluid, and to get a colonic and just get all that stuff out, man, I felt so good after. It was incredible. Better than normal, because I hadn't been able to move around very much, and I've been sitting in a plane on top of that. So just to get that stuff drained out of you, we're not sick, we're toxic, right? We're constipated. You're like, oh no, I'm not constipated. Yeah, you are. Guarantee it. We get you, we stick that tube up your butt, and we get the colon hydrotherapist working on you, And eventually what happens is you start having hard chunks coming out, hardened chunks, right? Nobody's immune from it. Okay, it's nice to excuse yourself and say, oh, I don't know, and whatever, and I don't have to do that. But you put yourself through it. You just put yourself through it, and you come out the other end and you be like, oh my God, it feels so good. And you know something. Because you'll just go, whoa, there's a lot of hardened stuff that came out. There was worms. Who wants worms here? Not one of us. Is it possible that somebody in this room has worms? You bet. Right? That's what my wife's going on. It is possible. It's likely. Liver flukes, very likely. Candida, pretty much present in all of us. Right? All these things are around, and so we have to be always working to get the parasites out. And water and salt, right? Because as soon as you get the water going in, the stuff comes out. You drink 2 liters of salt water in the morning, I guarantee you're going to have movement. I love saying TV is the best thing. It's like, I'll say that on TV, but I'll say, I guarantee you'll be regular. What a great word. Regular. Okay, I'm going to be regular now. Water and salt's the basis. Now let's get to the next thing. We know we're toxic. We know we're toxic. My friend Dr. Kassar, another friend of mine, Glenn Calkins, a water expert from Southern California, we've been doing years of wash-off stuff where you scrub the tissue and you get into the tissue and then until you get the black stuff coming out. You guys ever heard of that? It's an old Chinese thing. These civilizations like Iran and like China, after 5,000 years, they figured some stuff out. And if you tune in onto the healing systems that come from these ancient systems, you start to go, oh, okay, they knew something, right? Every civilization, you dig back further back into African civilization, dig further back into Middle Eastern civilization, you find out that they knew something. And one of the things they knew is that you scrub your body. So in the old days, they'd take alcohol, scrub it all over you like wine, and scrub the crap out. And the black stuff comes out. And you'd think, oh yeah, if I do that once every now and then, that's going to be enough. So you keep doing it more and more and more black stuff comes out of your tissues. And you start to realize we're saturated. We're saturated. Not only are we toxic, we're really toxic. Like, think of the glyphosate in the environment. You know what glyphosate is? Ready-made Roundup. Roundup is used, it's contaminated in every waterway in this country. It's used on every hedgerow. Over 80% of the hedgerows are spraying glyphosate, which is an herbicide. We know it disturbs the shikimate pathway, which is what can inevitably lead to Parkinson's. So there is a connection between glyphosate use and Parkinson's. And that's called the shikimate pathway. Very interesting word. Very interesting discovery. Actually discovered in Japan based on the development of color and the development from shikimate to charismatic acid to phenylalanine to tyrosine to betalain to dopamine. Because we know there's a disturbance in Parkinson's with dopamine. That pathway, if there's a metabolic disturbance in that pathway, it will lead to Parkinson's. We know there's a connection because, you ready for it? Glyphosate disturbs the shikimate pathway. What's that mean? Well, in plants, the shikimate pathway, and in mushrooms, the shikimate pathway forms color pigments and aromas or smells. Now, over the years, I have started to realize, this is my own opinion, that the evil in this world is organized. They're not doing things randomly. It's organized. It's organized crime. We do believe there is organized crime, right? It's amazing when I get into the scientism people, they can't even understand that organized crime exists. It's like, whoa, man, whoa, you don't even know that organized crime exists. So we're dealing with organized crime. And when if you look and investigate, you'll start to see that these organized crime rings aren't just running an Italian mafia. They are running corporations, and they are involved in gnarly levels of evil. And one of the things that they are doing is disturbing one of the fundamental things that makes life great: color and smells. And when this is disturbed by glyphosate, which is exactly what does Monsanto produce, other than Agent Orange, and what else did Monsanto create? right? DET, what else do they make? Oh, they make your food now too. Oh, sorry. Oops. Glyphosate. And what are they doing? Well, they're spraying us with glyphosate. Glyphosate makes heavy metals get into the brain easier, by the way. And glyphosate disturbs that pathway. So it disturbs the production of neuromelanin and dopa, which actually have a color. So that disturbance will actually end up leading into Parkinson's. So if we are worried or concerned, and we should all be worried and concerned about glyphosate contamination, we should jump ahead of the curve and do 3 things. 1, we need to detoxify. We need to have a detoxification regime. It's just part of our lifestyle. Like, you drink water as part of your lifestyle. Nature's solution to pollution is devolution. Now we know we need to add a little bit of sea salt to it, right? The third piece is we need charcoal. And I'm going to get into this charcoal thing like you may never heard of it, and it's going to be the most profound thing of all time. It's the most important thing you probably ever hear in the field of nutrition. Because there's nothing that has more longevity research behind it than charcoal. Just think about that for a second. What in the world did I just say? But let's get to a couple other things before we get into that. One of them is beet juice. Beets. Beets bypass the shikimate pathway and land you right at betalain. Betalain is the immediate precursor to dopamine and dopa. So the red pigment that's in a beet is the immediate precursor to dopamine. Just so you know. So if somebody already has Parkinson's, beets will not make it worse, but beets will stop it from getting worse. Right? Beets will not get you better, but it will not get it worse. It'll stop it right there. So somebody who has Parkinson's already, this is how dangerous Parkinson's is, by the way, and other neurological diseases, is once it gets to a certain point, reversing it, I believe everything's possible, but it becomes harder and harder and harder, and almost impossible at a certain point. The other thing that's very important about the jumping ahead in that pathway, and it's an ancient chocolate additive. We revived it. It's been, as long as chocolate's been eaten in the world, this has been in it. It's highly used in Ayurvedic medicine, strangely, because Ayurvedic medicine came from India, not the Americas. Chocolate comes from the Americas. But strangely, both herbs are used. It's also used in Chinese medicine. Same thing. It's present in all herbal systems, even in Africa. What is that thing? It's mucuna. Mucuna, M-U-C-U-N-A. Mucuna matata means no worries. If you've had too many hits of cannabis, too many drinks of alcohol, too much tobacco, too many stimulant sugars in your life, if you've had too many stimulants, you need anti-stimulants. And let's just talk about that for a second. It's basic herbalism. It's basically a speedball. The basic herbal formula is always the stimulant with the anti-stimulant. So the ancient formula is not chocolate and vanilla. This even precedes chocolate and vanilla. It's chocolate and mucuna. That's the ancient formula. And one of them is a stimulant, chocolate, and the other is an anti-stimulant. You will find that in every herbal system in the world. Every herbal system will deliver you the coffee with the reishi mushroom. If you look at it deeply enough, you're going to find it there. Meaning that, what did I just say? I said that kind of fast. Coffee, stimulant, reishi mushroom, anti-stimulant. One of my favorites of all time, one of the greatest, Ho Shu Wu, or He Shu Wu, or Polygona multiflorum, or in this country you call Fo Ti. This herb in Chinese medicine is the #1 longevity herb, and it's an anti-stimulant. So if you've been doing stimulants, you need the other side. So let's say somebody in ancient China was just doing too much cannabis, or ancient India, too much cannabis, then what's the anti-stimulant? He Shu Wu or Ho Shu Wu. So that you'll see that pattern. Let me break that pattern down for you again, because this is, once you get this, you're going to get at a level of herbalism. All of a sudden, see, the thing about herbalism is it's not complex. If it was complex, then we could have never gotten this far. It's easy. Everything's always easy. How difficult is water? Pretty straightforward. I think we're all familiar with it. How difficult is sea salt? Pretty straightforward. I think we're all familiar with it. How difficult is charcoal? All our ancient ancestors ate charcoal, birch charcoal to be very specific. That tradition, J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis belonged to an organization in Oxford called the Coal Biters, or the Charcoal Eaters. In Anglo-Saxon language, the ancient language, it was called a coal biter. or cold bitter. So in Iceland, they still have that word. It's called a cold bitter. And the way it comes from in the ancient times is that there was always someone in the house who ate charcoal, and because they were the one who tended the fire, but they hated going outside. It was too cold, especially in Iceland. And then that person eventually, from eating the charcoal, would eventually become the person who was the strongest, the fittest, could endure the elements the longest, and in fact left the home and was one who was always out late fishing, or always out late tending the sheep, or tending the fields. So the legend about the coal biters is that it turns you from basically the weakest kid in the family to the strongest. Right there, it's in the Icelandic saga. Look into it. Kohlbitr. Kohlbitr, the coal biters. Look into it and the legend behind it and what that means. Now, let's go back to the herbalism. Once you understand this little bit about herbalism, you understand something that's very powerful. And that is, there's the stimulant, anti-stimulant thing, combo. Whenever you're making something, you're like, okay, I'm going to make this chocolate, whatever. Let's put chaga in it. So you have the anti-stimulant, chaga, with the stimulant, chocolate, and it works. Anybody figured out how that works? Right back there, we've got chaga tea, right? Right there. So for years, 10 years at least, we've been going around the world doing the chaga chocolate combo. So hot chocolate with medicine in it. Is that, you guys into that or no? We're against that? There's a big thing about all these herbs, and that is you got to actually take them, right? You have to actually eat it. I do get that growing these things or picking them for sure has an effect on you, no question. You go out and you pick chaga in the woods, you're healed by the fact that you're out in the woods. That's a part of it, for sure. It's an energetic that you get from being around it. But the other piece is you actually have to ingest it. So getting onto the chocolate chaga combo, it's just, I don't know about you, but this is a delicious revolution. I don't want to be suffering anymore. Suffering is like scientism maniacs and people who aren't in fundamentalism who want to kill each other. Like, let them kill each other, and basically what I tell those people is like, hey, you want your vaccines? Great, have 40 a day. They're harmless, great. Do 10 every hour. No problem, go for it. Oh, your GMO food's fine, great, have it every meal. I encourage that. I love doing that to them. It's just the best. This piece is amazing. The stimulant, anti-stimulant. Here's the other one. The pioneer and the establishment. So in nature, there's always the pioneer plants. In this environment, it's birch tree. Right? What's going to turn parking lots back into forest? The first one that comes along is the birch tree. It comes through and breaks up the herb. What grows out of the birch tree? Chaga. So from the pioneer comes one of the great medicines. But there's also the other side. This is in every herbal system. If you dig in every herbal system, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Amazonian shamanism, African herbalism, and the history of it. We had a great trip in South Africa a number of years ago. It just will live with me forever. I think it's my favorite trip of all time. And just being there with the local medicine was just amazing. And you're going to find out that there is this connection between the pioneer and the establishment. Now, in this forest, in this environment here, the original thing was birch is the pioneer, and then what comes at the end of the ecosystem, when it's all established, you've got 2 or 3 meters of black soil and humus. Not hummus that you eat, but right? Black, loamy, oily soil that you can grow stuff in. Once the forest has gotten to that stage, then you get the development of trees like hemlock trees, or originally in this ecosystem, the final end stage tree was the redwood tree. You guys know about redwood trees? They were present all around the world at one point, now localized to certain areas of California and then the dawn redwood of China. Now they've been spread around again, which is great, but that comes at the end. Now, guess what grows out of a hemlock tree or redwood tree? Reishi mushroom. Just take a look at think on that one, right? You have the pioneer, and then you have the thing that comes at the end. Mucuna chocolate. Mucuna is a pioneer. You're driving around Costa Rica. Anybody ever get to Costa Rica? Anybody ever get to the tropics? Wherever you are in the tropics, you're driving around, you look out the window of the car on a highway, it's all Mucuna. Because it's the pioneer. So the land's been disturbed, they put a freeway in, they chop the trees down. What comes in to sort things out? Mucuna. So the pioneer will come in and be like, stay out. Boom. So the Mucuna comes in. And then eventually the Mucuna, nitrogen fixer, great ground cover, it starts to actually develop a nice layer of soil so other bushes and stuff can go, oh, this is nice, let's move in here. And then next thing you know, you got the more mature trees coming in, the more pioneering species, and then eventually over time the tobaccos come in, then step by step, you get all the way to the mature forest, which is where the chocolate likes to grow. And the very end product of the mature American forest is chocolate tree. So Mucuna is the pioneer, chocolate comes at the end, you mix them together, there's the magic. That's herbalism. And it's that simple, very simple. And you observe, it's an observation. So now you can go around and be like, okay, these nettles, what are they trying to do? They're a pioneer. They're trying to keep you off that area. Too many humans on it, get off. Right? That's what a nettle's doing, that's why it stings you. So you start looking at it and go, that's a pioneer. Okay? Then, you're hunting around, next thing you know, you find your hemlock tree and your reishi. You go, oh, wait, that's coming at the end. Maybe that'd be a good combination together. Nettle and reishi. It's just amazing research. You're going out your afternoon walk. Instead of just being out there on a walk, you start to observe things you never observed before. The pioneer and the fully established. And the relationship to each other. Fascinating. And then you start to understand herbalism. My goal for you is that you make your own medicine for you. Right? We were all having a conversation, a wonderful conversation about male pattern baldness. Which, by the way, if we cured cellulite and male pattern baldness, we basically saved the world. That's the end right there. That's all we have to do. So male pattern baldness, one of the things that like people always ask me, what do I ingest, what do I ingest, what do I ingest? Well, the best thing is nettle root to regrow your forest. Right? You need pioneer. Really true, it's related. As much as you think it's not related, as much as our logic goes, oh, no, I was educated in scientism in schools and all that. Did you learn anything valuable in schools? Right. You learned everything that didn't mean anything. It didn't matter. Like, what's the capital of Idaho? We don't care. We don't even know where Idaho is. It doesn't matter. You know, then the history's lessons. Okay, I'm sure that was all just BS that was written by the victors, right? All these wars. So that was all BS. We didn't learn anything important. But when you start getting into this stuff, it's actually stuff that's important. Right? Like, okay, male pattern baldness. What do? Nettle root. So here's what I do from my experience making tinctures or alcohol extracts. The alcohol soluble fraction of the nettle root, there's nettle root everywhere, all around this country. You can procure huge amounts of it in an hour. So you get the roots out, you pull the whole nettle out, get the roots out. By the way, the root won't stay in. Wash it as best you can, dry it, wash it again, dry it, wash it again. It takes a while to actually get all the dirt off of it. And then boom, you plug it in, like this, into the alcohol. I like to use 190 proof organic ethanol. So then boom, you put it in there, and then I'll leave it in there for a year. Now you might go, is 3 months good? Yeah, 3 months is good. I like a year. That's been my thing. Because I'm figuring, okay, I'm 47. And it's like, okay, I need to start thinking, when I'm 50, I gotta start thinking, okay, I gotta get this, we're growing better or something. So now it's ready. The one I made from last year is ready. So when I get back home, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna actually take it from 190 proof down to about 60 proof, which is something that I can put in my mouth without burning myself. And that's called a tincture. Tincture. Tincture, tincture, tincture. Americans say herbs weird, don't they? Herbs. It's herbs. There's an H there. Need to pronounce it. And this is the kind of thinking that we want to do is eventually, in your own reality, you make your own medicine. You don't need nobody to make you know intrinsically how to make your own medicine. Just like you know intrinsically how to find your own water. Once you get out of the programming, because this programming is intense, it's been going on for a long time, so it takes a while to deprogram, right? We call it get with the deprogram. You guys ready to get with the deprogram? Now I promise I'll only keep you here for 20 minutes before we take a break. It's been 18 minutes. Can you guys hang in there for 2 more minutes? Let's talk about the basics. I want to get back to this again about water, sea salt, charcoal. In the morning, put a little lemon in there, great. Charcoal has no taste. So it goes with anything. It mixes it with anything. Like, you got kids. Kids are being exposed to God knows what, and this and that, and God knows what kind of chemicals and metals and whatever, and lead, whatever. What do? Just put a little bit of charcoal in their food. They're not going to taste it. Historically, all civilizations had that charcoal in their bread, didn't they? They had it in their bread. It's still around. You can still find bread that contains charcoal in it. It's still on the market. If you look, you're like, oh wait, that's charcoal in it. Because in ancient times they just knew, like in Iran they knew that. They'd always have charcoal in the, you get this right? Noon. Did I get that right? Bread, noon. Yeah.
How about the Burger King?
Burger King has a little work to do. Whoa. They just do that? Even Burger King's onto this. So they're doing their work. Good for them. This thing about charcoal is something that over time you start to go, what is going on? Now here's what I was at, you guys know Russell Peters? You know, he's a famous comedian. So I was at his house. He wasn't there. I was with my friend Justin, who is a famous artist, and a whole bunch of other people, about a dozen of us. We were just staying, Russell Peters was like, just stay at my house. We're like, okay, we'll stay at your house. So we're staying at his house in Mississauga, which is next to Toronto. And we were there a whole weekend, had a great weekend, just all the friends, really good time. And then, I'm talking about charcoal and all, my whole trip, the whole time. These are people who are not organic. These are people who are not into our culture, what we're into, right? They're just, curious and great people, but they want to know. And so I said, okay, Monday morning comes around. We all had to do a lot of work. We got a lot of work to do. I had to go do a whole bunch of errands. They had to do a whole bunch of errands. And I said, here's what we're doing. Instead of coffee in the morning, we're going to get a glass of charcoal out for you in the morning. Water, sea salt, charcoal, lemon. Glass. These people had never had charcoal before ever. And so I put in probably 2,000 milligrams of charcoal into each one of those. That's a lot for beginners. You want to start with 250, 500 milligrams, right? Small amount. So I was like, no, I'm going berserk. Let's do an experiment with people. 2,000 milligrams. So I put 2,000 milligrams in there. Now normally if you start with 2,000 milligrams or more, it can actually constipate you a little bit because it sucks stuff up. Especially if it's activated charcoal. Now what we brought here today is just charcoal, birch charcoal, which is something, it's a tonic. You can take it every day. Activated charcoal is very aggressive. So you can't take it every day. It's a little too strong. It's like, yeah, I can do it once a week, okay. But regular charcoal is a tonic. You can take it every day. It's part of your food. And it is a food additive, ultimately. That's really what charcoal is. So anyway, we do this in the morning. We get them all out to, their things. I had to go do my errands. And we came back and we compared notes. Now, this is something I'm putting out for you guys because you're going to find this. Everybody had more energy. Everybody was more alert. Everybody was more focused. Everybody had a smile on their face at the end of the day. Is it possible that we're unhappy because we're toxic? See how that works? We all know that. It's intrinsic. We know that intuitively. We know that we're unhappy because we're toxic. And then we know if we get detoxified, we actually become happy. It's easier to become happier. I'm not going to say you're going to become happy automatically, but it's definitely easier to feel happier. Right? Who wants to feel happier faster? Who wants to get better faster? Totally. So this one is amazing. So anyway, we all had this amazing thing. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let me just lay this out a little bit more for you. I'm going to tell you the story of how I got into this, and then we'll take a break. The way I got back into the charcoal thing, I, of course, had known about it from all my years in the natural foods world. And, if you get a stomach thing or whatever, what do? You take the charcoal. Probably right now you have activated charcoal in some cupboard in a bottle that's in the back corner that you took when you had a stomach bug, and you took 5 of them or 10 of them or 15, and it's been sitting there ever since. Yes? Yes. Okay. What I'm asking you to do is get rid of that bottle and then start taking it every day, regular charcoal, just as a tonic, as part of your food. Here's how I got into it. I have a friend of mine, Lisa Scheffelmeyer. She's world record holder in bench press for her age and weight, and world record holder in squats for her age and weight. So she's not a slouch. You get into a workout with her, within 1 minute, you're like, I'm doomed, right? It's one of those where you're like, 1 minute in, you know how they do these things of like, you do 1 rep, then you do 2, then you do 3, 4, 5, and you go up to 9, then you go back down again? She's one of those. Like most personal trainers will get you up to 9, then you're done. Or they'll take you from 9 down to 1, then you're done. She does it both ways. It's one of those. Anyway, so she calls me up one day and she's like, have you ever heard of the stuff, the C60? I was like, C60? What's that? She said, here, I said, give me the website, check it out. Now, a couple weeks before, I was at a petrol station. And I was thinking in my mind, because of my field of longevity, I'm thinking, I should know off the top of my head what the #1 longevity study ever is on mice and animals. I should know that off the top of my head. I didn't. So I was like, I'm going to put a little thing like, I need to find out what that is. Just know that off the top of my head. Boom. She sends me this website. There's a study right there. And I was like, whoa, the greatest breakthrough in mice longevity ever. Doubling the lifespan of mice, which has never been heard of. It's unheard of in science. And when I say science, I'm talking about science, not scientism. Scientism is the religion of science with all those belief systems, and you have to believe in evolution, you have to believe in the pill for every ill, you have to believe in the materialistic theories and all this BS. Where I'm coming from is science has no belief systems. Which is obvious, right? But if you start digging into it, oh, you can't do science unless you believe in this BS and this crap, and you have to believe in this and believe in that. It's like, oh, wait, what's that all about? I'm not going to believe in that. I'm just doing a study, and that's the scientific method. So science and the scientific method is not the religion of science. And that's an important distinction. Man, I love hitting that on the scientism maniacs. They can't get that. They can't understand that. So anyway, do a little science project, and what happened was for 20 years, Sir Harry Kroto was a scientist from this country, had spent researching different forms of carbon, and in fact had elucidated a form of carbon that had heretofore been unknown. Now, carbon chemistry, for anybody who's a chemist, you know that carbon chemistry is like the hallowed halls of science. There ain't going to be no change to carbon chemistry. We've got it all figured out. This is how it is. There's no way that any of that can be true. So he was dealing with that for 20 years, right? That's scientism, which is we have a belief system now, and if you try to come at our belief system, you've got to be wrong. He battled those trolls for 20 years. Eventually, in 1996, won the Nobel Prize. And because of that breakthrough, which is, right, that's a very interesting thing, that he battled through all that, and all the naysayers, and the people who ridiculed him, and eventually won the Nobel Prize. And what he had elucidated is called the C60 molecule, and an entire class of carbon molecules called fullerenes, named after Buckminster Fuller. And this breakthrough was the biggest breakthrough in carbon chemistry in 100 years. And what it detailed for us is that there are not just sheets of carbon in nature, because you see that. If you see charcoal, you kind of see these layers, right? We've all seen that, which it corresponds to like layers of a tree or something, and it's all layers. But there are actual carbon compounds that can fold up. They can be conical shapes, spherical shapes, spheroids, oblate spheroids, all different kinds of shapes. And this is what his discovery was. Well, he opened the door. Once he got the Nobel Prize, there were thousands of scientists were onto this, and they started looking at soot. Like you take cold porcelain onto beeswax candle, and the soot that forms there will have fullerenes in it. Right?
I did it.
You did it. See? And so this has been around. If a tree gets struck by lightning, it will charcoal, but it will charcoal in a different way because of the electrical arc, and it will form fullerenes. This is important. I'm going to lay this out. So what ended up happening is that all kinds of research opened up in this area. So the C60 became an enormous research project for thousands of scientists around the world, and eventually a scientist in Paris, Fatih Moussa, was doing some research on toxicology of C60 in mice. Just a toxicology study. There's research going on in fullerenes in computers. There's research going on in fullerenes in conductivity. Every category of science you can think of, this is going on in research. But he was just doing toxicology. So he's trying to see if this stuff is in any way toxic to animals. We know that carbon compounds, discrete carbon compounds, are non-toxic to human beings. That's why charcoal is safe. It's actually, not only is it non-toxic, It's antitoxic. And so his theory was it's possible that there could be toxicity, it's possible it could be antitoxic, possible it could be neutral. We'll see. So 5 years later, the study's still going. And the study, they eventually, this is so typical of scientism, they had to kill the last mouse to publish the study because it was living too long. That is what we're dealing with, folks, right? It's that kind of whatever. Anyway, they published a study. The study indicated this. Not only is the C60, this carbon compound, the Buckminster fullerene, it's a soccer ball. It has 20 hexagons and 12 pentagons. So it's a soccer ball. It's exactly a soccer ball pattern. Or, as you guys say here, a football. Which is a much better name. Because it's foot, ball. Anyway, that's typical American stuff. Whereas in American football, you really hardly ever kick that ball with your foot. It happens, but it's rare. Anyway, this shape of the soccer ball is not random, as it turns out. It's extremely durable. That's why the football is that pattern. Because you can't break it. I mean, you've got some of the strongest guys with the strongest legs in the world kicking that ball. They don't break the ball hardly ever do they split a ball. Isn't that interesting? Well, it turns out this pattern is existing in carbon chemistry and in nature, and the exact pattern is called the Buckminster fullerene, or the C60. So you'll hear me throughout the day today, I'll be talking about the C60, C60 this, C60 that, and I'll be rambling it on. Now the C60, because of its folded over, is oil soluble. So most of the carbon compounds, like just charcoal is not oil soluble. Charcoal is not even really water soluble. Charcoal doesn't penetrate. When you take charcoal into your body, it becomes a negative polarity that sucks the stuff out of your blood, and it's called interstitial dialysis, and it basically becomes a third kidney. That's amazing. What I just said is very important. Because by the time someone gets to me, after they've been through the whole scientism BS, then they, maybe they swing all the way over here to another fanatic thing over that way, and finally they get, you can imagine what has to happen by somebody has to go through all the medical science, they have to be cut, burned, poisoned, surgeries, all that kind of stuff. By the time they end up with me, they've exhausted all possibilities. And one of the things that ends up in front of me is people on dialysis or with serious kidney malfunctions, because at that point, no one can help them. So they end up on my doorstep. And so I've been looking for years, what can help these people? I finally found it. Charcoal. Charcoal causes dialysis. What's that mean? It means that the charcoal, as a porous, attractive, highly negative charged substance, will draw off all the positively charged ions out of your system, including plastics, heavy metals, improperly or toxically metabolized hormones, petroleum byproducts, pesticides, those stuff all very, very highly positively charged. The coal is negatively charged, and it draws it to the charcoal. It draws it in, traps it, and you basically poop it out. That's how charcoal works. In the beginning, it's interesting. In the beginning, if you take a lot of charcoal, it'll come out. You'll see it come out. But over the years, I don't see it coming out anymore. I don't know what that means. It has some meaning. I don't know what it is. I don't see it. Getting right to the end. 1 second. So anyways, we're getting to the C60 thing. What happened was because of the oil solubility, Fatih Musa had basically, from the study, realized that this stuff is highly biodistributable. And from research on the dead mice, he found out that it was distributing through the whole body. And he found out that these mice were absorbing it for about 90 hours and then excreting it. Absorbing for 90 hours, then excreting it. And so that's the kind of the life of it in a mammal's body. It's about 90 hours. So it has high bioavailability, including being able to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is very difficult for a detoxification agent to do that. Now, we have had no studies on this with Alzheimer's, dementia, nor Parkinson's, but I bet you when we do, we're going to have some positive results. So the C60 in that particular product, eventually that guy made it available to everybody. He's like, try it, it's completely non-toxic. Not only that, we have this research now that indicates extreme longevity in mice. So that's what I got doing. I got onto the C60 from Lisa Scheffelmeyer, we call her Shazam Meyer. named after the herb. So that became like a thing I was doing and I got onto this about 2.5 years ago. I got onto it hardcore. You start out with a dropper full, and I was like, let's do 4 droppers full. What if we drink a whole bottle in one day? But I hit some intense detox, like after about 2 months. Because you know how detox, it rolls backwards, right? It's Herxheimer reaction. The way you got toxified eventually is the way you get detoxified. It goes backwards. And all of a sudden I was like, geez, my instinct kicked on, and I was like, I need charcoal. And so then I had a little idea to look up the influence of charcoal on longevity in scientific literature. Holy shizzle. Oh my God. That little thing, that little insight, right? It's gonna revolutionize the world eventually. You haven't been told. They never told you. It is known in science. When you have mice in one study, and then they're done with a 6-week study, and you want to prep them for the next study, what do? You feed them charcoal. Clean them up, and get them ready for the next study. This is known. It's been known. It has been known that charcoal is the #1 longevity substance in animal research for over 50 years. I would even argue it's been over 60 years, because really since 1965 is when it really kind of broke through. This thing of charcoal being present in all emergency rooms began in the 1960s, right? Somebody, if they're high on drugs, whatever it is, they took 50 medications instead of one, whatever the story is. What's the first thing they do when you get into an ER room? Charcoal, right? Activated charcoal, boom, you got to drink the charcoal. If it's too much, then they pump your stomach. But the first thing is charcoal, which ought to tell us something. So I started onto the charcoal. Now, just before I take this break, let me just give you some of these numbers. It is common in animal research for like the length of life of a mouse to be increased by 23%, 20%, 21%, 34%, 32%, even 43%. What does that mean? Well, let me tell you what it means for you. Let's say you're going to be 100. Like natural human lifespan is 100. Right? Now we're moving it down to like 70, 75 because of all the toxicity and the craziness of our reality. But really, you're supposed to get 100 years. That's kind of the setup. And if you get 20% increase in lifespan, that means 120. If you get a 30% increase in lifespan, that means 130. If you get a 43% increase in lifespan, that's 143. I dug into this hardcore. I am sure, I'm actually positive that all the great immortals of Ayurveda, the yogis, all the longest lived people of Chinese medicine going back thousands of years, all were charcoal eaters. No question about it. Charcoal, by the way, is what color? Black. And black has always been associated with longevity. Black and longevity are associated with each other. Now, let me just give you one more final piece, and we'll take a break. It's been 21 minutes. Start small. Start small. We have no idea how toxic we are. We have no idea how many diesel fumes we've actually breathed in. We have no concept how much glyphosate we've been exposed to. We have no concept of how much lead we've been exposed to. Lead, by the way, can be passed along from the mother to the child, to the mother to the child, 4 generations. So if your great-grandmother was exposed to lead, it can be passed on to you. Because in your development, it can be displaced, it can be present instead of calcium. So the lead can be in your bones all the way from the embryonic stage on. So these are things that we don't really have answers for, but we do have solutions. And that solution is we need to start drinking more water. We need the salt for the electrolytes, for the energy. And lemon's nice because it gives a nice flavor. It could be like lemon water in the morning or warm lemon water in the morning. And even tea, putting the tea, and then charcoal goes into that. And that combination is an amazing way to start your day instead of the stimulants. Because you'll find out as you go further into it that if you're groggy and tired, it's because your body has been working to detoxify itself and it's overloaded. You add an extra third kidney in there, the charcoal, all of a sudden it's cleaned up, you're awake, you're ready to rock and roll. Okay, I've been battling up here long enough. I'm gonna sneak up there and sign books. You can see Kenny Sunshine, raise your hand, Kenny Sunshine. I'll be right up there signing books if you guys want to come talk to me. And we're gonna take a break for 15 minutes, and then we'll start up again. And then we'll go for another hour, then lunch. Thank
I'm not up regularly for a bit. They have got
twice a day. Yeah. 22.
But they did successfully cancel one event. Fortunately, we were able to move that event to another venue, so it wasn't actually canceled, but the government. So governments are involved in evil. We know that, don't we? And they're also involved in making sure you have limited choices. One of the great things about our world is today, and it's a phrase I want you to hear and meditate on and think about. It's called medical tourism. Can't get the stem cell treatment here. Next thing you know, you're in Cancun. And there's flights going every day from London to Cancun. And we got the stem cell clinic right there. You get the stem cell treatment you want, and you can get that every year, and it's a Cancun vacation. That's not much to argue about, is it? So the stem cell thing, let's talk about that for a second, because we may have gotten confused about what we heard, because what we're hearing about is like, oh, they're like killing babies and taking the cells or whatever the story that was, right? When in actuality, they're taking the aborted fetal tissue and using it as culture medium for vaccines. That's the real story that they're not telling you that's showing up in your vaccine. So any of you who have a religious disposition or predisposition against using human fetal tissue in vaccines, I think you need to make your voice heard, because I'm making a voice heard against this BS. Right? They're taking aborted babies and they're using it as a culture medium for vaccines. Look into it. It's disgusting. It's gross. It's definitely, there's no vegan vaccine, by the way, just so you know that. Right? So if you are a really hardcore vegan, I really recommend that you will join with me in voicing against this insanity. Now, let's talk about that for a real quick second before we get to stem cells. There's a better technology that's been around from Nikola Tesla's days, and Nikola Tesla developed a technology. It's called ozone. Ozone kills all infectious diseases on contact. Ozone kills vaccinium, which is smallpox, on contact. Or ozone kills polio on contact. The reason why we don't get that technology, and instead we get these giant corporations that are involved in evil, we know that, they're involved in major lawsuits which they've lost. Just look up on Wikipedia. Just punch on Wikipedia, just punch up 15 lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies, biggest lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies. Maybe we'll get Christopher to do that. This is so crazy what is going on with these companies. and that then we're supposed to trust them. $300 million judgments, $2 billion judgments for fraud, for scamming certain countries, so they sell it at a high price in the United States and then meanwhile cut the price in Australia or whatever. There's so much of this going on. It's so out of control that I just want you guys to just see this so you have something. You can go, oh, okay. The technology that stops infectious diseases like polio, like smallpox, like rubella, like pertussis, like measles, and like mumps, was developed by Nikola Tesla. We know Nikola Tesla, don't we? He made a comeback, didn't he? And Nikola Tesla developed it 100 years ago. We in America, and I'm sure in the UK as well, you can buy systems. We're working on a system right now to get the price down to get to about $2,500. You get an entire ozone system with all equipment that you need to stop any kind of whatever it is. Because oxygen kills cancer cells on contact. Oxygen kills viruses on contact. Oxygen kills measles on contact. So would you rather have their solution or Nikola Tesla's solution that you do yourself at home? It's either or. Now, all you have to do is research the track record. If you think Merck Pharmaceuticals is a trustworthy company, great. Do some research. Look at the track record. If you think Bayer Pharmaceuticals wasn't involved with IG Farben and the Nazis, and you just need to just go back and just have a look. Make sure, double check. And if you start digging into these companies, you're going to find that their history is sordid, to say the least. And it's gone on year after year, so they haven't changed their behavior at all. They just know that, okay, they're going to lose a certain amount of lawsuits. There's a certain amount of people who are not going to sue us, and it's just a cost of doing business. That's how they factor it in. Look at these judgments. $875 million judgment for Medicare fraud. $1.4 billion judgment against Eli Lilly in 2009 for off-label promotions. Abbott Laboratories, $1.5 billion. Johnson & Johnson, $2.2 billion. Pfizer, $2.3 billion. I mean, this is like just what's on Wikipedia. I do say Wikipedia because, like my entry on Wikipedia, they won't change it. I have my team go in there and change it, they immediately change it back to BS. So they're spamming the crap out of me on Wikipedia because they know I'm so powerful on Facebook, they're scared. So they have teams of trolls, including, when you buy a pharmaceutical drug, you don't just buy a pharmaceutical drug, you're paying for an organization that is using every bit of leverage to corrode the institutions of freedom that they can. Let's say that again, just so you hear what I'm saying there. When you buy a pharmaceutical drug, you're not just buying a pharmaceutical drug. You are funding an institution that is organized in going out and making sure that choices are removed from your palate. You don't get to choose it. Yeah, you're right. So now, like Lyme disease. Lyme disease, there is a problem with Lyme disease in the UK, but it's nothing compared to what's going on in New York State. It's an absolute epidemic. I was just in New York State. It's an epidemic. It's 96% of Lyme disease cases are in New York State, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey. When I was a kid growing up in New York and New Jersey in the woods, we never heard of such things. We never heard anything about it. To get the appropriate test, the medical institutions won't give it to you. You can't get the test you need. Why is that? Why is that? Yep.
See what cancer cells got in the bloodstream and couldn't get it. That's the found out. I can get a full hormone test. Found out got all the cortisol. Couldn't get it. They couldn't do it. Nowhere.
So what do you got to do? It's called medical tourism. You have to drive the boat around, and you go somewhere else, and you get the test that you need. And so this is something very important. Fortunately, in a country like the UK, you actually have, you're making a lot of money compared to the rest of the world. Even middle or lower classers are making a lot of money compared to what's going on in India. You're making a lot of money here compared to Pakistan. I employ a guy from Pakistan. Hopefully he's going to be there next weekend. He's going to fly to the UK and meet us. He's an amazing guy. And This guy, like what we're paying him, he's like, he can't even believe it. You know, we're paying him $2,000-3,000 a month to do his tech work that he does. He can't even believe it. He's absolutely elated. He's beyond stoked. His wife's beyond stoked. The whole family's celebrating. It's like they can't even believe it. Right? And so we think this is a small amount of money. But when you take that money to Mexico, it's a lot of money. When you take that Mexico to where you can get real medical freedoms like the Bahamas, it's a lot of money. So all of a sudden you can get those treatments you think are priced out of the sky for you. It's possible for you. And as time goes on, just like the cost of computers, has the cost of computers gone up or down? Down, 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 down. And that's what's happening with medical treatments like stem cells, so we understand. So let me give you the basic stem cell rundown. I had to get sidetracked on the vaccine thing because I get blasted for that nonstop all day, every day. It is insanity. No one, like in our population, people won't look. They will not investigate. So they're going to end up going down that rabbit hole, and they're going to end up with the autistic kid or the problem. I mean, what's the autism and vaccine relation? Here's what the relationship is. There's a certain amount of toxicity that your body can take before it snaps. Duh. It's called the straw that broke the camel's back. Duh. They don't get it. Can't understand it. It's like, look, you got glyphosate in the kids' food. You got lead in the kids' food. Your kid's already born into a toxic world, and the mother's toxic. I mean, just look up umbilical cord pesticides. Punch that into a search engine. Maybe we should punch that into a search engine. Umbilical cord pesticides. Wait till you see that story comes up. What is going on with this? It's toxicity. So all of a sudden you put a vaccine into a child that has aluminum hydroxide, formaldehyde, mercury thimerosal. It has two different geez, I can't even pronounce the name of these darn chemicals. You've got, let's see, it's called amphosetrin, I think is the name of it. Then on top of that, you've got potassium sorbate, you've got whatever they're using as preservatives. This is just what's listed on their docket. It's what's listed in, okay, watch this. Test find more than 200 chemicals in newborn umbilical cord. Bam. Boom. Right? So then all of a sudden on day one, you're giving them a hepatitis vaccine. Which, by the way, in the United States, they give hepatitis vaccine on the first day. The United States of all developed countries has the highest incidence of death on the first day of life of any country in the world. But we're not going to look that they're connected because they can't be connected because vaccines are good. So we won't even look. This is what we're dealing with. They won't look. You think, okay, we have to meet pharmaceutical standard of safety. I'm not into pharmaceuticals, but vaccines should meet that standard. None of them do. Not a single vaccine that's given in this country is actually met the pharmaceutical standard, which means you have an A group and a B group. You have a double-blind crossover control study. A gets the vaccine, B does not, no one knows which is which. Then you study in week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 3 months, 5 months, 10 months, 2 years. That study does not exist on any major vaccine used in the world today. Does that cause you to be alarmed? It should. And if you try to call them out on this, what you get is not science, you get personal attacks. You get threats on your life. I get threats on my life and my family's life every day on social media, non-stop. I got 2 people kicked off Twitter recently because they were threatening to kill me. They're just overt about it because there can't be anything wrong with science. Right? In fact, not only can there not be anything wrong, we can't even look just to make sure. Because if you want to look, you're an anti-vaxxer or whatever that crap is, just they're trying to sideline you or whatever, trying to oppose you against everybody else. What we want is safety. And the safest, simplest, and most effective way to control infectious diseases is ozone. It's always been that way. And that's why you never hear about that. But you don't know this. All over the Western world, there are people go around as government agents checking on chiropractors, making sure they have no ozone systems in their office. Checking on colonic clinics to making sure there's no ozone systems in that clinic. Or we need to check up on how you're using that ozone because we want to make sure you're not injecting anyone with ozone. We can't have that. This is what we're dealing with. So what we do is we take you to Jamaica and we teach you how to inject the ozone into yourself. Right? Because that's what I love about Jamaica. Hallelujah for Jamaica. Hallelujah. My God. The government's so corrupt there, they're so busy being corrupt in their little scene over there, they're not even looking over here. We go in there with ozone machines, the whole thing, like it's a water purification machine. They're like, oh, okay. Because it is, they're water purification machine. And then we go in there and we throw a retreat, and then we teach everybody at the retreat and all the locals how to do it. So that you can solve the problem at your own home, on your own time. Should I get arrested for this? Because that's what's coming, right? They want that so badly, these scientific trolls, they want me out of the picture because I'm threatening billions of dollars in business, maybe even trillions of dollars in business. One vaccine just in the United States in 1 year is a $32 billion business. One vaccine in 1 year just in the United States is a $32 billion business. Now, you can't tell me there's no corruption going on with vaccines, period. You can't tell me that because that's too much money. And that's just one vaccine. So just put that out there. Now, let's get on to stem cells. This saved my mom's life. It can save your life. It can be done in every hospital in the United Kingdom. It can be done tomorrow, just like that. In every hospital in the United Kingdom. That's why it's absolutely not done. Here's what it is. It's the simplest thing ever. You should know about it. And once you know this, you can never not know it. And that's why I love sharing it. We haven't gotten to superfoods yet. But this is fundamental stuff. We're going to get the fundamentals in. So you just have things you just have to know. Once you know it, they can't take it away from you, right? That's what I love about knowledge. Once you have the knowledge, no matter how much propaganda they throw at you, you go, oh, great, well, I'm just going to go over here now. We'll go to Mexico. We'll go to wherever, Guadalajara, somewhere. This is what saved my mom's life. My mom's still going strong. Basically knocked out well over 90% of her arthritis in one treatment. Here's treatment. They punch a syringe into your hip bone. Extract the bone marrow juice from this side, extract the bone marrow juice from this side. So let's say it's 8 ounces, so 4 ounces out of each side. You have a tremendous amount of bone mass in your hips, by the way. Your hip bone is a massive bone in your body. And this is where you have an enormous amount of production of your blood, right? And your white blood cells. And basically, the new you is produced from your bone marrow. And the biggest bone mass you have is your hips. So your hips is a big part of you. It's a big part of what becomes you. So you go in there, you take the bone marrow juice out. 1 ounce of that is going to go to the lab to be tested so we see where you are, you see if you have lead in the bone marrow, those kind of things. The other ounce is going to be frozen, so we have a sample forever. That's just so you don't ever have to have that treatment again. You can just have that, just unfreeze 10,000 cells, multiply them to 300 million, put them in an IV bag, boom, it goes into you. So you get all those stem cells right directly in your blood, multiplied in the lab. I mean, what's the idea I'm talking about here? Well, I'm going to lay it out for you, but basically as time goes on, our BS that they're throwing at you. They want this muddled. They don't want you knowing about this. That's what I love. Whoever they are, them. Parasites. And by the way, they're parasites. Look into it. What are they doing for us? Stealing, robbing, and they're vampires of our energy too, major, right? So eventually we wisen up and go, whoa, there's something wrong with that system. We don't know, we're innocent, right? We come into the system, we're innocent, but after a while we go, whoa, something's wrong. And we step out, we opt out. Now, listen to what this is. The other 6 ounces goes into the blood. So my mom, she's in her 70s. I'm not going to tell you exactly her age because she would have my neck. Found out I mentioned her age. My mom, even in her 70s, take the bone marrow juice out. 1 ounce goes to the lab, 1 ounce goes to the freezer. The other 6 ounces they turn around and go right into your blood. So what it is they just take a syringe, your bone marrow, pull the juice out, put it in your blood. Within 4 hours, and I'm not kidding and I'm not exaggerating, we were there with Hulk Hogan and his wife. You guys know what Hulk Hogan is. Hulk Hogan and my mom. You should see that. Beyond crazy, beyond that. It's one of those things where you go, how can it get better? And then this happens. My mom comes out of this treatment, so it's a 20-minute procedure to get this up. 20 minutes. Can be done in any hospital. They're doing it already. Every hospital in this city today is extracting bone marrow and analyzing for bone marrow transplants and then throwing it away. All they have to do is just turn around and put it in the blood. Don't throw it away, just put it back in my blood. My mom, 4 hours after her treatment, we're at one of these Mexican restaurants with all the doctors and everybody, because my mom was the last one to have her treatment. And so, it's one of those Mexican restaurants where they're like serving crickets and like, like real Guadalajara Mexican food, right? And it's like big thick table and tequila and all the whole thing. And so we're in there, and I'm like, I gotta take guacamole. Right, you're asking me. So, we're having a great time, and we're at the appetizer stage, guacamole is being served and all that. And my mom gets up on the chair and literally jumps on Hulk Hogan's back in a chokehold, like jiu-jitsu style, like gets Hulk Hogan's back, jiu-jitsu style. Now, I was born in 1970, I've known my mom a long time. I have never seen her do anything like that ever. She completely forgot, it's my mom, she completely forgot that she was ill. She completely forgot that she had arthritis. That happens, by the way. If you're in the healing field, when somebody's like miraculously healed, they completely forget that they were even sick, ill, arthritic, whatever. My mom completely forgot she was arthritic. 4 hours after that treatment, I had to jump out from behind this table, which is a big, thick Mexican table. I had to, it was like, I'm in like this. I'm like, oh my God, and this is happening in front of me. I had to sneak out of there. I had to bear hug my mom and grab her and be like, you cannot do this. What are you out of your mind? From that day forward, her arthritis was essentially 90% better and then gradually even got better. Now, like, I'll get her on the phone and then, the complaining starts. I'll be like, how's the arthritis? And she'll I'm good. Like, do you have any pain? No. She wants to complain. You know how this is. She wants to complain, but really actually doesn't have anything to complain about. So she's back to her bike and things that she likes and all that kind of stuff. Do you hear what I just said right there? This is the most powerful medical procedure in the history of humankind. It's indicating a couple things. Let's just talk about what it means. One is it means you produce your own cure at all times, and you always have. It's producing your bone marrow. Your bone marrow is producing your cure. Your bone marrow can be extracted once every 3 years like that. So even if we didn't have freezers or anything like that, all you have to do is take a syringe, poke it into your bone, pull it out, and boom, put it into your blood, and it would stop a heart attack, a stroke, or anything like that immediately. Not talked about. Hospitals are so sophisticated. They know what they're doing. Doctors know what they're doing. You see how crazy it is. It's beyond insanity. I'm trained for medicine, but real medicine. It's my genetics. It's where I'm coming from. It's both my parents. I'm going back, both sides of the family. But we can't have real medicine in the Western world. We have to go somewhere else to get these kind of procedures, because this type of procedure bankrupts monopolies, and we can't be having that, can we? I think you know what I mean. So there's always hope for you, no matter how much you think it's, I've had this for 10 years, or whatever your story is that you've been telling yourself, doesn't matter. You get your own bone marrow injected in, you're on top of the situation very fast. Not only fast, you'll forget what was even wrong, and next thing you know, a week later, you'll be back to where you've been 10 years ago. It's like that powerful. If we didn't have freezers, we could do this once every 3 years, and it's good, because it's like giving blood. When you give blood, there's a reaction that occurs in your body where your body goes, oh, we have to produce more blood, and it's like a euthaning reaction. It's kind of like trimming a tree. Like if you trim your apple trees in the springtime, they actually will be more vigorous and be healthier. It's like that with giving blood. It's also like that with giving bone marrow. It actually detoxifies you, because we may be carrying lead or other heavy metals in our bone marrow, might even be aware of it. And then all of a sudden it's out, right? And then once it's in your blood, your body goes, oh, we can slop this off now, we can deal with it. But this type of treatment is what it's like, why don't we just go right to that? What are we doing wasting our time with all these drugs and surgeries and cut, burn, poison theories and all this kind of stuff? This is where medicine really is. Now, this is that accurate. You have a question? What's that? Diabetes. Okay, I met with Dr. Hu from China. So I have a friend of mine who's an eccentric billionaire. This guy's great. His name is Peter Nygard. You ever heard of Nygard fashion? Anybody heard of Nygard fashion? It's a guy, he's a billionaire. He's a eccentric 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 billionaire. He's a eccentri This guy's like at a level where he sells like 6 million pairs of pants a year. He supplies department stores. He just mastered that business when he was like 18 years old. He's been running it ever since. He's in his 70s now. The guy, that's it. It's always great hanging out with him. He's a Hugh Hefner of clothing, he is. And his son is a very close friend of mine. That's how I met him. And his son, from hanging out with his son, he's like, let's go hang out with my dad. So, I started hanging out with Peter. And this guy, for years, was resistant. I'd be like, okay, you got to go make your business organic. Like, get this soda pop out of here. This is terrible for your employees. All that kind of stuff. Gradually, slowly, some changes. Slowly. Then his mom passed. And he realized he was mortal. And he realized that they couldn't save her. And he realized if he didn't get his act together, he was gone pretty soon too. And so he started digging into the whole stem cell thing. He started digging in deep, all the way in. Now he gets a stem cell treatment. So once they have your sample, then you can I'd recommend for my age, it's once a year, because I have my sample. So they just unfreeze it, multiply it to 300 million. I get an IV back, takes 20 minutes. And, my trip to Cancun, it's just all fun from that point on. Not that that's not fun, but it's amazing when that happens. So he does that 4 times a year because he's in his 70s. He's 77, something like that, 78. So he's running. This guy, man, his energy is, for somebody who's like late 70s, I'm just going to put this out there. He likes having lots of women every night. How he's doing that is beyond me. I'm like looking at the situation going, how is this happening? This guy's in his late 70s. He went through the whole, he has his kids and all that kind of stuff. And his late in his life, he realized, I like having orgies. I'm personally not into that. That's what he's into, so we just let him do his thing. But he's from Helsinki. Like Christopher. Maybe the orgy thing is this Helsinki thing. I don't know. But anyway, what's interesting here is that even the resistance, all those years, finally cracked. It finally snapped, and finally he got into it. Now it's 4 times a year. He went organic. He travels with a guy who makes him superfood drinks every day, and he realized that his mortality is real. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you're in a position where you're like, no, maybe you're not sick. Maybe you feel like you're immortal. Maybe you feel like nothing can get you. But there can be things that can happen to you, or somebody passes in your family that can wake you up and snap you out of it. And in this case, it did. Now, what I love about Peter, what's amazing about him is, regardless of his personal choices, is he really has been supportive over all these years. So he's going to let me use his New York office for free at Times Square. And that's the best ever. So, and that's why I was in New York. Because, that's why this whole Lyme disease thing came up, by the way. It's just everybody's talking about it. It's an absolute epidemic. If you look into it and you look into Operation Paperclip, where they brought the Nazi scientists over the United States, remember that whole thing? You guys ever look into that? And one of those Nazi scientists was involved in weaponized ticks. This is how sick governments are. A weaponized tick program. And they escaped from Plum Island, which is where the weaponized tick program is going on. The government, of course, denies it, even though we have paperwork, we have declassified paperwork, it's all there. And it escaped from Plum Island to Lyme, Connecticut. And that's where it all started in 1975. Crazy stuff. Now, if you put the stuff together, so you have the water, the salt, the charcoal, then you got the right medical treatments. And then you start going, wait a second, maybe I can eat well. Maybe I can eat my fruits and veg for real. We found in our research with NutriBullet that people lie and exaggerate how many fruits and vegetables they eat. So when they say 5, it actually means 2. And this is the next piece for us here today, is can we get the fruit and veg in, and then what do we do on top of that? I'm going to throw the whole book at you. You don't need the whole book. But some of these ideas are seeds that are planted to the future. When I talk about stem cells, now you know what the real treatment is, right? Now you know what the real thing is. It saved my mom's life. It saved Peter's life. It's brought him back. I mean, you should see the difference in his physique. It's amazing. He looks younger than he did 20 years ago. It's just incredible. And so now we know what our direction is. Now we know what we're working for. right? It's very important to know what you're working for. If you're working in whatever work that you do, if you have a goal, it's much more powerful. I recommend, and one of the things I want to talk about here today is goal setting. You've got to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. Yeah. Great question.
Yeah, you said earlier, not every food has additional treatment or medical treatment for everyone. So how do we get this, how do we get this to make sure it's actually safe for particular patients?
Great. Okay, so I leave that to the doctors. There are certain cases where we look at someone's blood and we find out that they are in bad shape. And we know that they need to get themselves healthier before they have the stem cell treatment. Now, what's great about the stem cell treatment, it is appropriate for everyone because it's your own. But it may not be appropriate at that moment because the person might be too ill. So then we have to work with their blood chemistry, try to get the electrolytes back into their blood. And in particular, number one factor is get them off sugar. Because typically when somebody has really bad blood chemistry where the stem cell treatment is not going to be effective for them, it's usually from sugar. They have too much sugar and too many parasites in their blood. And what feeds parasites? Sugar. And when I say that, I'm also talking about fruit sugar. Because one of these cases, actually, one of these gals was brought down there, they looked at her blood and they're like, no stem cell treatment for you. You have way too many parasites in your blood, and you have way too much sugar in your diet. They knew from looking at her blood. And we have to be very careful because if you're living in ancient times, Paleolithic times, you're good with apples and whatever, berries and everything else. But today it's not like that. You know, bananas are way too sweet, seedless watermelons are totally unnatural, seedless grapes are unnatural. So we're basically, all our fruit is basically made too sweet, sugary to look good. And we know that the ugliest apples are the best. We do know that. So there are things that we have to do. And the main thing is we have to detoxify, we have to clean up our blood, we have to get hydrated, and then we have to nutrify and get the right nutrients in. Now we know that the fiber of fruits and vegetables is one of the key hidden secret nutrients that we need. And what's amazing about it is not really a nutrient for you, it's a nutrient for the bacteria that lives with you, which we now know outnumbers us just on straight DNA by 10 to 20 times. So we have way more genetic variety in our body, in our intestines, than we have in our arms, legs, head, organs. Meaning that the bacteria are really running us like a farm. Right? This is what we've learned. Now this gets us into a very important part of everything, which is friendly bacteria, probiotic bacteria, kefir cultures, and the importance of having friendly bacteria for good digestion. Even before we can add in the fruits and vegetables, what if we can't digest them properly? What if we've never had that much fiber before? Our bacteria are not organized to deal with it, so we have to implement it slowly. This is why people go from like Burger King all the way to like raw food, fruit, veg. It's too much. It's like your body's not used to it, your bacteria is not used to it. So the bacteria have to learn to deal with the more fiber, and they actually enjoy it. That's what they want. Bacteria want fiber, and fiber is a drawing agent. Fiber is also what pushes everything through. If we had meat, eggs, cheese, there's one thing about those things that's really problematic. What's the thing? They contain no fiber. There's no fiber in meat, there's no fiber in chicken, there's no fiber in fish, there's no fiber in cheese, there's no fiber in eggs. No fiber. So what do you have to have with those things always? You have to have fruits and veg, especially vegetables. Essentially, because of the sugar disorders that's been developed by our civilization, we need more vegetables than fruit. And if we're going to have more vegetables, we need more green vegetables. If we're going to pick up, like the one thing we're removing from the hamburger is what? The lettuce. Even the onion stays on a lot of times, doesn't it? But we're removing the lettuce like that. That lettuce must be pretty damn powerful, by the way. It's keeping people alive on those burgers. Lettuce is very powerful. Real quick thing on lettuce. I'm a big fan of lettuce for alkalinity. Lettuce is very underestimated. We all eat lettuce, we don't even think about it. But as soon as I go green leafy vegetables, you're thinking, okay, I gotta eat some crap that like tastes awful, parsley, something. Dandelion. Okay, I'll do that. How about lettuce? What is lettuce? Lettuce is in the opium family. Romaine lettuce, when you eat it and bite into it, especially when you get to the core of it, tastes like poppy juice. Poppies are in the opium family or lettuce family. The core of the lettuce, the really tasty bit right there that has that kind of strange flavor, that's the opiates. And if you score that material, like when the lettuce is shooting out its flowers, and you score it, it'll bleed a white sap out, and that white sap out contains soporific compounds identical to opiates. Lettuce contains opiates. So I'm going to bring up, and I gotta just flesh this out for you guys. The drug addict essentially becomes a drug addict. Why? Because usually they're so acidic that as soon as they take the drug, let's say it's heroin or opiates, they immediately go alkaline. So all of a sudden they go, oh, I feel better. I feel good. And we were talking about this, that this thing is going on deliberately, that they know. They know if they put the drugs in with the fast food culture, it's pretty much a no-win situation, right? No way you're going to get out of that. It's almost impossible to escape it, especially if you have no other choices that you know about up here. So what happens is they put the fast food in, and then the next thing happens is that you want something that's alkaline. Your instinct is telling you I need alkalinity. And so the next thing is you're smoking marijuana, right, which is alkaline. So it starts to get you high, which is balancing out the acidity, which is the low. And the heroin eventually where that leads to. And the heroin itself is made from lettuce. You can make heroin from lettuce. Here, look into it. Dig into it. And by the way, in our forest where I live, and by the way, we're so lucky we even have a forest. We're so lucky, you know, I live in Hawaii and Ontario, Canada. I go back and forth between those places. And we live in a wild forest. There's bears, deer, everything's in there. And we have wild lettuce grows in the forest. And what you do is take a knife and just score the wild lettuce on the way out when you're hiking. And then when you come back, and there's the lettuce, the white sapphire, you take that on a knife, and you take that and you put that into alcohol. So you collect it into alcohol, into alcohol, into alcohol. Then eventually you have a medicine, an opiate medicine, for if somebody breaks their foot. Or somebody like seriously breaks a leg or compound fracture or something, and you have to get them to the hospital and you need a painkiller, that's what that's for. We had a cat that it was a peg leg cat, it was a pirate cat, and had one leg. And after 12 years, this thing lived 12 years in the forest with wild animals with a peg leg. It was fierce. And it was a pirate, like it was like that, that would do that. And we came back one day, we were in Montreal, and we came back to my house, and it was in the shower on the floor, it was a favorite spot, and it was like heavy breathing, and like this is it. So I went and I got the tincture of the wild forest lettuce, and boom, put it in his mouth, and it went, took his last breath and died. No kidding. It literally, I put that in there as a painkiller so it would go smoothly out. It turned around and went, arr, and then literally died. Imagine you don't know about that kind of stuff. Where are you going to turn? You go to medicine, you go to pharmaceuticals. I'm going to say it. Medicine and pharmaceuticals are fake herbalism. Someone's got to say it. I'm going to call it. It's fake. And what's going to happen? You're going to have side effects. What's going to happen? You're going to get addicted. What's going to happen? You could die. What's going to happen? It's not going to correct your symptoms. It's going to cover them up. I just put a video out on Twitter of a guy, scientific method guy, which I love scientific method guys. Not scientism, scientific method, which is a great way of knowing, right? Great way of investigation. And he's like, I work for the big pharmaceutical companies. They don't want a cure. They want to palliate symptoms. They do not want a cure. And that's how they're educating their scientists. So we ain't going to get the cure there. What's going to get us to the cure? Cleanse, nourish, detoxify, sunshine, air, sport, and exercise, that's what gets us. That's what heals us. You put those pieces together, it just takes time sometimes. We want to find our way into a hole for 10 years, and it takes a while. 3 years gets you out, and you're out. Then you know. Then you're empowered to help others. There are a lot of people in this room right here that have been very ill, that empowered themselves and got well, and are trying to help you now. That's why they're here. A lot of people with stalls. I guarantee you, if we look around, we start talking to people who are running these stalls where they were 10 years ago, they're very happy with where they are right now. And that's why they're here to help, right? That's why we are here, right? It's like, this is what we do. I could have easily made more money if I would shut my mouth up about vaccines, no question about that, just so you know that. I could easily have, if I didn't call out on Satan or Moon Saturn or Monsanto, I could have made a lot more money in my life, but it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. It's like if I have to hold my lip because, I can't tell people the truth, then forget it. As I can see it, right? And we can only approximate the truth. Superfoods, let's get into this in fruits and vegetables. One of the reasons why we developed the NutriBullet as a blender, and I had written that out as a goal 25 years ago, and even written out the entire infomercial in my journals 25 years ago. So if you don't believe that dreams don't come true when you write them down, I got news for you. I have absolute proof that they do. I have absolute proof that if you write your goals down, they do come true. Now you can have everything you want in this life, just not at the same time. That's the thing. So God's delays are not God's denials. You can have everything you want, you can't have it all at the same time. So you have to be patient. I set this goal up, I didn't get all these 10 goals. Well, you got 3 of them. Isn't that good enough for you? It's like God's delays are God's denials. How about the next 3 next year? And we got to get into that mindset. We just can't, we get so greedy. It's like, I set these goals and power manifestation. How come this isn't happening? It's like, calm down, take a breath. You got 3 of them, you're good. Now, what are the goals that I set? I wanted to get out there with a blender. Instead of a juicer, I love juicing, I'm into juicing, but a blender's a tonic thing. You can do it every day. Juicing, you can do every day for a while, then you get tired of thinking of juicing. It's like, my God. When we set out, I remember the first day I sat down with the NutriBullet people, and that, back then it was Magic Bullet. So we sat down and went over their previous project, it was just a little Magic Bullet product. By the way, that whole deal, just so you know this exists and just so you know this is real, that deal with them is a handshake. I don't have a contract with them. Millions of dollars of business, millions of dollars in sales, no contract. How about that? We're so corrupted with this paperwork and legal bullshit. Sorry to say that, but it is just a pile of crap. And the legalese, I mean, if you look at our legal system, how your name's in all capital letters, this whole business, your birth certificate sold on the stock market, all that business, it's legalese, Freemasonic nightmare. And we got to get out of that. So we got to get back to this. How about I just trust you, and you trust me? And I got your back, you got mine, and we're good. And that's how it is with them. So Lenny Sands runs NutriBullet, and Colin, it's just you tell me what to do, I'll do it, and if I can help you, I'm on it. And that's how we work. Is that the best ever?
Can I ask a question? The person on the very bottom of NutriBullet, a friend claims that blending your fruit and your vegetables in NutriBullet actually increases the glycemic index, which we all know can,
Juicing, okay, so we did research on that. So I had to do that research, which is great. So NutriBullet's like, you have to do this research. So I came across some interesting discoveries in developing the NutriBullet product, because that was my role for them. One of them is it does not increase glycemic index. Juicing does. And the reason is because the fiber's still there. So that's why we went to blending, right? So unfortunately, we have to battle through a lot of the pre-programming. And what I loved about NutriBullet is they kind of reinvented the whole concept with their Magic Bullet. That's why I went to the bigger size of it being a completely sealed system, which lowers oxidation. Open systems like Vitamix or Blendtec or the other one, or any other normal blender, it's pulling air in through the top, right? So you have the gap of air, and so that means you're going to get higher oxidation. If you fill the NutriBullet up almost to the top and you seal it off just to the point where it won't overflow, you'll get almost no oxidation because there's not very much air in there and it's sealed. So that was a good innovation. But there's some other things that came up in the research. This was fascinating. If you blend your food, you double the uptake of antioxidants. And I'm talking about the big ones, like beta-lane antioxidants, beta-carotene antioxidants, all the carotenoids, all the flavonoids, which essentially are the color pigments in your food. You double the uptake. Now here's what was interesting. So once I got onto that research, I was like, okay, this is what I need to look for, because in the scientific journals, they don't call them smoothies. They call, I mean, it was some cockamamie term that they used. It was like, off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was, but it was something we would never, ever think about looking for this. But when I finally found what that word was, then I was able to pull all that into the research, and I was like, oh, here's where it is, and then find it. So then there was another thing that came up that was fascinating, and that is if you add oil to, a little bit of oil, tablespoon, you guys like to say dessert spoon, of oil into your blended fruit and veg, you can increase the amount of uptake of antioxidants and double it again. So that would, olive oil is the most recommended from the research, but olive oil is not a good source of omega-3. Hemp seed oil is a good source of omega-3. We've been doing the fresh linseed oil or flaxseed oil with you guys. That's been great. So that way, and hemp seed oil is probably what I recommend because it's so diverse. You have such a diversity of different things in there. Omega-3, omega-6, GLA, omega-9, omega-18. You've got some saturated fat in hemp seed as well. Very diverse. Anyway, if you add a little bit of that in there, then you double it again. Now here's where it got interesting. This led to the NutriBullet RX product. And it does it automatically. That product automatically does this for you. If you blend it and have a little bit of oil with the fruits and veg, and then the next piece, which is you get a little bit of heat, about 118 degrees Fahrenheit, or 48 centigrade, you can increase up to 60% or fourfold it. So that means you can get, instead of say, let's say out of 100%, by blending it, you get 5%. With oil, you can get it up to 10%, or in some cases, with some foods, get it even 20%. So you double it or quadruple it with the oil. But then when you add in the heat, you can increase the antioxidant uptake in the blood, this is blood research, up to 60% or 8 times more or even 12 times more than just blending alone. 8 times more than oil and blending, and 12 times more than just blending. Now that's astounding, it's shocking. That's blood research. Now what does that mean? Well, interestingly, in that same research, what is important is the sipping temperature. So if you heat it up to 118 or 48 centigrade, 118 Fahrenheit, and you're drinking it at that temperature, like a hot tea type of temperature, just sipping it like that, you can't drink it down, that intake is what gets you that result. If it cools off, then the uptake of antioxidants also goes back down again. So interestingly and strangely, not to any of our expectations, it's the temperature you consume it at. So what we're recommending now is that yes, during the day, you have your fruits and vegetables, like maybe one meal in the morning, blend it. And once you get used to doing like berries, here's the basic formula, and this is the formula I gave to NutriBullet. We've used it successfully for 7 years now, had unbelievable success with it. Let me give you the basic formula. The basic fruit and veg formula is, of all fruits, to me the most natural fruit and the easiest to eat and the lowest glycemic and the highest fiber is berries. Now, if you don't like strawberries or the salicylic acid doesn't agree with you, you go to blueberries. You don't like blueberries, okay, go to blackberries. If you don't like blackberries, okay, we'll go to raspberries. You don't like raspberries, we'll go to whatever, Incan berries or golden berries or whatever berries you like. Maybe go to mulberries. So berries, one piece. The next piece, a green leafy vegetable that you like. I like parsley. I like lettuce. Good place to start. Other people love spinach. A handful of spinach goes in there. Whatever one you like. So then that kale, that goes in. And then we use an electrolyte-rich beverage. I really like using coconut water. I spent 20 years going around the world trying to popularize coconut water. We succeeded. We succeeded. We got it out there. It's out there now. Coconut water everywhere. It's amazing. I couldn't even tell you when, 25 years ago, Nowhere. Now everywhere. So I really promote that on TV a lot. It's like, yeah, put that together. Berries, green vegetable, coconut water. It tastes delicious. You're not going to have any fight about it at all, and it's a great thing for your morning drink. But in the evening, when it comes around to evening, you obviously don't want to have big meals at night. We know that now from the research. Too much meal at night, what happens? You feel bloated, heavy, and if you go to sleep on it, what happens? It's still there in the morning, right? It comes on. It's like weight starts adding on. Who wants to gain more weight here? Okay, so eat at night. That's the easiest way. Eat at night. If you want to lose weight, do not eat at night. So in the evening meal, what we want to do is we want to start thinning it down to a smaller amount of food, and then what we have is a hot soup. And we designed the NutriBullet RX to do just automatic. Hit one button, it does it automatically. It goes for 6 minutes and 45 seconds, and automatically heats it to exactly that temperature no matter what you put in there. So I'll do a tomato basil soup, for example, that I do on TV a lot. I do that recipe a lot. And it just automatically makes it chia seed, tomato, basil. I put in powdered garlic and onion. I'll put in almond milk, a little bit of coconut water, sea salt, maybe a handful of cashews if I really want to thicken it up or give it a nice flavor, making it really trying to pizzazz somebody. And that's it. And then boom, hit that, and then instant soup, 6 minutes and 45 seconds, super hot, right at that great temperature, and to get those antioxidants. Now, that's the NutriBullet RX, that's a little bit different. Oh, that's the book, by the way, Elena, right there. The Nature's Prescription for Optimum Health. People have been asking me about my Color Cure book. Actually, a lot of that information went into that book right there, which comes with the NutriBullet. When you get a NutriBullet, it has that in it. And we've got the NutriBullet 1200 out now, which is, we never could have believed that we could have gotten that engine into that little, it's the same size as the original NutriBullet. It's all parts and pieces fixed. I don't want to make this into a NutriBullet infomercial, but I am very excited about NutriBullet and what they've done and what we've been able to accomplish over the years. It has been absolutely amazing. It's caused a revolution, and it's allowed people to get to that next step. Because a lot of us, we start with this thing of like, I've got to change my nutrition. And that's a great first step. But then we eventually find out about, oh, wait, I got to get hydrated. Oh, wait a second, I need sea salt. Okay, wait a second, I need to do the salt switch. Then I need to, wait a second, I need to detoxify. And then we start going, wait, I can live longer and healthier and happier. And next thing you know, I might be able to have the best day ever. Surprise, surprise. So soup at night. Get those antioxidants. Great filling way to end your day.
What happens when you start to feel that carbohydrate craving at night time?
Great question. This can lead the carbohydrate coma that can occur at night with the ice cream. You got to be careful. So what we really have recommended, and I show people how to do this with just a simple NutriBullet. You can take frozen fruit and a little bit of almond milk, just a tiny bit, so it blends all the way through, and boom, instant sorbet. And that way, if you really feel like you have an ice cream craving, it's really like, I need the ice cream. We'll get you the ice cream, but it'll be almond milk and fruit, and that's it. So that's a good way to deal with it. I like putting pineapple in there. I like putting pitted cherries in there. Pineapple is very sweet. I do get that. But it's also a good medicinal plant. It's high in bromelain. And the bromelain is one of the more powerful proteolytic enzymes. And I'm a pineapple grower, so I do like to put a little hit of pineapple in there. And one of the things that's great about pineapple is like, pineal gland, activation. There's something to be said about that. Bromelain dissolves calcification. Citric acid, pineapple has more vitamin C and citric acid than most citrus fruit. So pineapple is something amazing. Here's another thing, for those of you who are into Amazonian shamanism. Where's pineapple from? From the Amazon. Pineapple is as Amazonian shamanism as ayahuasca is. That's just facts. So it's good to know that, right? So that you go, oh wait, I want to connect with this Amazonian wisdom. One of the ways to connect with it is pineal gland activation pineapple. It's one of the great ones. So I'm a big pineapple advocate. One of the great tricks I like to talk about is you take the top of the pineapple and the body of the pineapple, you do that. Twist right off. So you don't have to cut it off. Just twist it off and you plant that. You can grow it in your windowsill. You can even get pineapples in some parts of this country if you're growing in a greenhouse. Can be done. All right. So we get the fruits and veg, we get the soup. Yes?
What do you need to
Okay, so let me repeat the question. Such a good question. We have to masticate our food, which means we need to get the saliva involved with the food, and there is a hormonal reaction that occurs that tells your body, like, hey, this is what's coming. So if we just drink the smoothie super fast, it's not healthy. So the way we say that is, drink your food, chew your juice. Drink your food, chew your juice. Great phrase. Once you have that installed in the software, the new deprogram in here, it really is helpful. Drink your food, chew your juice. What do I mean by that? When you're eating food, what do you want to do? You want to chew that food up. You want to masticate that food. You want to liquefy that food. When you're drinking liquid food, go slow. Mix it with your saliva. Connect with the food. And this is a great thing, too, because it allows you, when we get these big containers like this now, the 40 ounces or whatever that we have now with NutriBullet, has a little flip-top lid. So it allows somebody to make the thing and then get in the car or whatever, get on the metro, whatever they're going to do, to go to work, and they can sip on that. And that's kind of how you want to be. You want to sip. You always want to, it's a slow food movement. That's just bottom line. It's slow food. We have got to get out of this fast food consciousness. Terrible idea. Plus, it's not even enjoyable. The fast food thing is a terrible nightmare. It's happening so fast, it's not even enjoyable. It's like, if you're going to not even enjoy your food, why even eat? It's not worth eating. Better off going slow. Good question. Let's talk about some of the key foods in the mix that I really am a strong advocate of. Apples. Years ago, I started studying Amazonian shamanism, and I got into studying what's going on with some of the great and insightful investigators and ethnobotanists of our time. And one of the amazing things that came out of all that is that in the same ecosystem, there could be multiple different types of systems of diet and herbalism. So our Western mind always thinks there's only one way you could carve out and eat a system of food, diet, herbalism, and life out of the same ecosystem. That's just a Western concept. It actually has nothing to do with reality. So, for example, thinking of the Maroons and the Dutch, what's that Dutch colony in South America? Not Aruba, Suriname. In Suriname, you have the Dutch people, like the white people. You have the Maroons, who are like the black people, are like, screw slavery, and like 300 years ago, they're like, we're going to go live in the jungle. And then you have the Native Americans. All three live in the same ecosystem today, have completely different diets, have completely different medicine and herbal systems. The Maroons, who are the Africans who said screw slavery and they went to live in the jungle, actually have the more sophisticated system than the Native Americans have. They use completely different foods and herbs in the same system. That's just that insight right there, I think, can inform you. It can educate you. You start to go, whoa, I can carve out a certain path in this ecosystem that's different than what anybody else has done. And there could be medicines in our ecosystem, shaga mushroom. There could be medicines in our ecosystem, reishi mushroom. There could be medicines in our ecosystem, nettle root, that we don't even take advantage of because they're not. We think there's only one way, or we got screwed up with Western medicine or whatever. And so what I'm asking you to do is, like, now we can cross-reference. Now we can go a little deeper. One of the things that I found out in that research is we don't know hardly anything about the grapefruit trees of the world. We don't know what's in the root bark of apple trees, for example. We don't even think about it. Would you make a root bark medicine out of an apple tree? Probably never would even thought about it. What about what's going on with apple flowers? Would you make an apple flower cordial? Probably never even think about it. So some of the things that we do with elderberry, for example, you make an elderberry flower cordial, but never an apple flower cordial. Why? Well, because one is an old system that we start using, the other we forgot about or we never use. Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean we can't. Apple is connected to heart, right? If we look at what we're dealing with, heart attacks, we start to see, wait, if there's something in apples, in the apple tree that can protect us from heart attacks. And certainly there is. Malic acid dissolves calcification, sedimentary debris. This is one of the reasons why when people get super materialistic, they get on meat and potatoes. We know that. It's cultural. They're never eating fruit. You never find somebody who's a fruitarian who's a materialistic maniac, ever. Because they're opposed to each other. right? The malic acid dissolves the sedimentary thinking. The apple. Just a simple apple tree. There's so much medicine going on in an apple tree. I could go on and on and on about it. Apple cider vinegar, apple juice, blending apples, eating apples, apple seeds. What kind of medicine is in apple seeds? B17, Laetrile. Now, that battle, we lost that battle. We got our butts kicked again. What they did is there was a father and son team that had popularized Laetrile back in the 1950s. They were having great success in beating about 50% of the cancers. Laetrile is effective against about 50% of the cancers that we're dealing with in the world. Not all, but there are definitely a group of cancers that can be treated with Laetrile. The American Medical Association, found out about that, oh, somebody's treating cancer without us involved. We can't have that. And they drove them out of the country to Mexico, where they were still having success with Laetrile therapy, and that therapy is still available in Mexico because of them. And it's been available in Mexico for nearly 70 years. Laetrile therapy. Can you get that therapy at home? You can't. How do you get it? Apple seeds. You eat the whole apple and the seed. How can you get that? You eat the pits of a peach. There's so much Laetrile in the natural environment. You eat wild food. I know this is going to sound crazy, but you can have a wild time eating wild food. You can go wild eating wild food. You can be a wild child eating wild food. I really recommend eating wild food. Chaga is 100% wild, undomesticated. Go get close to lunch. Oh my God. It's been 17 minutes. Can you guys hang in there 3 more minutes? Okay. Apple. Yep. That's where superfoods come in. Right? So that leads us, because you're right. It's like, what if you're in a situation, you're in inner city London or Birmingham, and you have maybe a balcony, you can grow some sprouts or something, but you can't really grow fruit trees or whatever. So what do? In that case, see, that's where the superfood revolution comes in. Because you're not going to go to supplements. I'm not against supplements. I'm all for supplement freedom. I'm all for vitamin D3. I'm all for vitamin B12. I'm all for the things that are really powerful. Vitamin B3 and for neurological conditions. Absolutely all for it. I'm all for all supplements. But is that really a replacement for an apple? Or is that really a replacement for celery? No, it's not. So where are we going to go? Well, this leads us eventually to going, okay, I've got this, you guys call them courgette. Is that the cucumber courgette? So I have that. But has that really got the real oomph of like a wild cucumber? No. Has that really got the oomph of like a cucumber grown in like Mykonos, Greece? Nope. So what do? That's where the superfoods come in, and that's where you add in the superfoods. You stack that in to make up the difference. That's where the maca comes in. That's where the cacao comes in. If you want to get like magnesium, copper, phosphorus, zinc, chromium, that's cacao, right? It's going to top you up on all those. But we can't say that that's going to happen if you eat the food you buy in Tesco's. It's not going to happen. So that's really why we drove the superfood revolution. If we were living on wild food, like at my house in Ontario and in Hawaii, we don't even really grow, like we grow fruit trees, but we don't grow vegetables, we just eat weeds. It's the best. So this is the best ever. Kai, Nygaard's son, he comes over and he's like 2-3 days later, he's like, dude, are we gonna have a meal? 2-3 days, he's been starving. He's like, dude, can we eat something? Like, dude, we've been eating it nonstop. What are you talking about? But it's all been weeds and apples and some plums, whatever, all wild stuff. And so, most of us were not used to that. You have way more energy, by the way, in wild food, wild mushrooms. Way more energy. It's not even comparable. You don't need much. And so that's another thing that's very interesting. It's a different type of energy. Okay, so we're going to get into, after the break, we're going to get into the superfood revolution. We're going to get into the cacao. We did bring, but this is the first event ever. And I've been working on this with these guys for quite some time. It's been probably, since I heard about anandamide was, how long has it been? It's been since I started studying chocolate. What is it, 1995? The first real breakthrough scientific literature on anandamide in chocolate. What's anandamide? You guys know what anandamide is? Anandamide is a cannabinoid that exists in chocolate. We had this the first event ever where we got the concentrated anandamide, the quintessence of cacao. So what it does is you eat that, a couple drops, and you eat that and you go, oh, this is like cannabis, except it's legal, there's no hangover, it's a food, and it doesn't give you the fog. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of cannabinoids, right? Lord knows how many there are. I know that there's well over 100 for sure in my research, but your research is more extensive. So that means that there are many things out there that could fit into those cannabinoid receptors that could go after that glial cell blastoma, for example. Or a friend of mine had brain cancer, and cannabis was a major thing for him because glial cell blastoma has a lock and key fit to the cannabinoid receptor, and if you have the right cannabinoids coming in, THC is one, CBD is another, anandamide from chocolate is another. So one of the feel-good things, it's not a stimulant by the way, there's no stimulant in it. The stimulants are not part of the anandamide. Anandamide is the bliss chemical, anandamide. Ananda means bliss, mide is the chemical. We got that. We got that here, finally, after all these years. That's other things that we brought too that are very interesting is just all the wild shaga, right? So that it's like, this is wild shaga from Scotland, from the British Isles. These guys, Shaga King came down about that. I'm not going to ask them where their hunting grounds are, but I'm sure you can talk to them about it, where they get their shaga, all wild harvested. So that even if we're in a city environment, we're getting something that's connecting us to that wild environment. And I just want to mention this about shaga, we'll take a break. Shaga is very valuable, highly valuable. You do not throw it away. Do not throw the shaga away. Do not use it once like a tea bag. It's not a tea bag type of thing. It can give you 30 teas or more, one piece like this. So you keep going until the color's out. Once the color comes out and it's going clear, you fish that shaga out, you dry it out in the sun, not the stove, in the sun, because shaga is very flammable. Shaga is how we controlled fire here for 10,000 years or however long human race has been going. Right? You ignite a shaga, you can't put it out. It has so much alkalinity, it has so much cesium in it, and it's cesium, rubidium, and potassium. Once you light it, you can't put it out. So the coal, you can't put it out. So then you take another mushroom called Fomes fomentarius, you drill a hole into it, you take that coal, you put it into that hole, you can walk around with fire. That's how humans controlled fire in the British Isles for 10,000 years or longer. How many people do that? How crazy is that? Right? We all know what a lighter is, we all know what matches are, but we never even heard what I just said. Look into it. Fomes fomentarius and shaga mushroom. Tinder mushrooms is what they were called. But they were also medicine. And with the shaga, once you get it out of the water, it's not done. Then you dry it out, and guess where it goes next? Vodka. That's right. It goes into vodka. So I just did this is great, I'll share this and we'll break. I've had a shaga in for 2 years in a Rekia vodka. Rekia vodka is from the Arctic Circle. It's 100% organic. It's made from spring water and Arctic barley. And it's one of my favorite products from Iceland. And I'm not a drinker, but that's what I like to use for my shaga. I put it into the Rekia. So I had a friend of mine come over, and she is a drinker. And she's like, let's do shots. I'm like, I don't do shots. I don't do beer, no shot, nothing. But finally I was like, you know what, we made the shaga for 2 years using that alcohol. And I was like, let's just see what happens. So we started pouring shots. Boom, we're hitting the shots, and I was like, whoa. Next thing you know, it was like after dinner every night, shot of vodka, until we finished that bottle off. That was amazing. So now that's a thing for us. Now we're like, let's do that all the time. That's like unbelievable. That's what the Russians have been doing to fight cancer. If you read my shaga book, you know there's 2 things. You need the water soluble, right, which is the tea, And that's the polysaccharides, and that's the long-term immunological strategy. But the immediate anti-metastatic, anti-tumor, antiviral is the alcohol-soluble fraction of chaga. It's also reishi and all the medicinal mushrooms. But the alcohol-soluble fraction is anti-metastatic. What does that mean? Stops the tumors from spreading. 2, stops the tumors from growing. 3, there's always a viral and fungal component to cancer. One of the more powerful antivirals there is alcohol extract of chaga and reishi. In fact, I met this girl, she had herpes over 95% of her body. Think about that for a second. Over 95% of her body. And she studied my stuff and just locked onto reishi mushroom tincture. And started down in that, down in that, down in that, down in that, down in that. Within a year, she wiped it completely out. Just from that. You don't need everything. You don't need a million things. But if you can hang your hat on a few things, you're good to go. Okay, we're going to take a break for an hour, and then we'll come back. So this is our lunch break. Come on down and make an announcement about our return into the room. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Did you enjoy that? We're going to have a 1 hour lunch break. Now, natural healthy foods. I've got the pre-booked all food lunches. If you pre-booked it there. Otherwise, you have to pop outside and grab some lunch. And just a reminder, the stores will be open during the lunch break. It's the best time to buy stuff. Because at 5 o'clock we have to close because the venue's closing. So you're going to have a whole hour now to do whatever shopping you want to do now. Is the best time. See you back in an hour. That's great. Thank you.
Rachel's organising the get together in November, isn't she?
That's how these people know. I've seen enough that I'm sure they know. Okay, where were we back on the black? And Cistanche. That's what we're going on to. Cistanche. Cistanche in your pants. This is one of those like Lacuna that like when it hits, it's like urgency. And when it's happening, it's really good. Cistanche, it's the stuff, those are the flowers of the cistanche that you're seeing here, the yellow flowers, but underneath it is a black substance. It's actually a parasitic plant. And it's endangered right now because the plant that it grows off of is being cut down. It's typical human behavior. Let's just cut everything down, ruin everything. How about living in harmony with everything? If you look at our civilization, you can tell we're overcome by evil because we're in parasitic behavior. Right? We're stealing everything, robbing everything from nature, and instead of being in a sustainable situation. What I'm saying about this thing about like, there's the disintegrative type of parasite, and there's a materialistic parasite, and like God's in the middle, that's the creative force. That's basically what you want in your home environment. So it's all about a creative force. Everything like composting to me is not like a great idea. It's like, I can't wait to compost stuff. I can't wait to form dirt. God made dirt, dirt don't hurt. There's just so many amazing things, because once you have that big, thick, black soil, you can grow everything. And everything just does super well. It's all from your own hand. That's what I mean by getting in alignment with the creative force. But if we have to go like steal soil from over here, or rob this, to pay Paul, to pay Peter, or whatever, then it's just, we're in a parasitic pattern. And that's what's happening. And that's what we're shutting down by having the best day ever. Anyway, back to our thing. So, black foods. Now let's talk about another class of foods, the red foods. Reds obviously affect certain part of our body. If somebody's low in this certain fluid in their body, then red is what replenishes it. What fluid is that? Blood. So red is blood, and that's connected. When we start looking at these intrinsic energies of the colors, there's no way it can be a coincidence. Right? So we're taught, that's another thing, the scientism. Oh, it's everything's a coincidence, you're an accident. Right? That's what they're teaching us. Like, oh, it's all coincidence, you're an accident. Is that really real? Not real. So when you start looking at these intrinsic energies like red, it's blood, it's hard, but it's also volatile like fire. You have to be careful. You eat too much red, you can get irritated, right? Somebody is completely, let's say somebody's almost bled out, right? At that point they need red food. Let's say they can't get going, they need red meat maybe even to survive because they're so depleted in blood. But does that mean they should eat red meat every day forever? No, then the compound goes too far. Let's say someone's drinking red juices all day, beet juice. The word on the street is beet. Beet. They're drinking beet juice all day. Eventually it comes to a point where it also becomes volatile and starts irritating the system. So red is also volatile. It's an important thing to remember. Yellow is happiness. You can take a picture of that, by the way. That's a good way to remember. He's going strong. And he's happy. Yellow. Foods that are yellow are happy foods. All the research on St. John's wort, what did they find out? They found out that the active principle turned out to be quercetin. Do we need to do the quercetin? This is the best ever. You guys ready for this? I think you need this. Just so you know that there's a logic to reality and it's not random. Quercetin is a yellow compound. Quercetin is in all your fruits and vegetables. It is the one thing that all fruits and vegetables have in common. It's, when your kale, you ever seen kale like turn yellow? Or spinach turn yellow? It didn't turn yellow. It was always yellow. It's just the chlorophyll broke down, now you see the yellow. The yellow is always behind the chlorophyll. In all of nature, there are more yellow pigments than any other color. Yellow is the easiest pigment for nature to produce. What's the hardest? Anybody know? Any guesses? Blue. Blue is by far the hardest. In fact, a lot of times nature will fake blue. Is there blue pigment in water? It's a fake. It's a light refraction phenomenon. Right? So in a body, if you're looking from light into darkness, the light will refract blue. If you're looking from darkness into light, the light will refract red. Let's say that again. This is a very interesting concept. If you're looking from light into darkness, so let's say you're looking into the sky, right? So we're in lit earth, we look up in the sky, it refracts blue. If you're looking from darkness into light, it refracts red. That's just nature reality. No pigment involved. So nature will always try to avoid making the blue pigment if it can, but yellow pigments are easy and abundant. One of the great ones is quercetin. And quercetin is an antihistamine. It's one of the great epigenetic substances. It may be one of the key ingredients of all fruits and vegetables in terms of their effect on our health. And quercetin also, interestingly, allows through a certain frequency of light but blocks others. And that frequency of light is 380 nanometers of light. Now, what does that mean? Well, Fritz Albert Popp for many years had been trying to find if there was a commonality amongst carcinogens, and found out that carcinogens do have one thing in common. They are all blocking 380 nanometers of light. 380 nanometers is just into the ultraviolet range. So it's just out of our visible spectrum into the ultraviolet. And it's a very interesting frequency because some of you have used Myron Glass products. Who's used Myron Glass? Anybody ever heard of Myron Glass? Okay, Myron So it's one of the interesting little quirks that we found out about quercetin. I think Christopher knows what's coming next. This is the best ever. Christopher and I finally made it to, we were on a world tour in 2013. We were in South Africa, then we went to Ethiopia, then we went to Jerusalem. And I had a friend who lived with me for years. His father's still a good friend. I just saw his father recently. And he moved to Jerusalem, to the old city of Jerusalem, and decided to go like raise his family there and live there. And I was like, okay, well, we're coming. We're going to check it out. So he got us a spot right across from the Wailing Wall. Right there. This, right there. That's me on the computer. That's the Wailing Wall right there. So all day long, all night long, people are coming, oh God, Santa's with their prayers, oh God, they're putting their prayers in the cracks and stuff and crying and weeping, and oh God.
It was Easter. It was Easter week, so it was
Full.
all day,
All night. People crying, weeping, whatever. So I'm like, hey, Christopher, just, put something on the internet. What are these plants growing out of the side of the Wailing Wall? Because I'm a plant guy. I want to know what those plants are that are growing out of the Wailing Wall. Just on an instinct. I'm like, just pull this up. So he pulls up the list, and see these plants right there that are popping out? They're kind of bushy. The thorn caper. You guys ever had capers? So Christopher's like, oh yeah, that's a thorn caper growing out right there. I was like, oh really? Well, that's kind of interesting because capers are the highest of any food in the world in happiness. Fact, look into it. Capers are the highest in quercetin of any food in the world by a long shot. Now, if that's not the cosmic giggle in action, right there's the person's cure. Oh God, I see my family, oh my God, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna help. Right in their face is the cure. This is going on all the time. It's always been like that our whole life. So they're going in there, and they're crying, and meanwhile their cure is right in their face. No one puts it together.
I also had a long lens going through the lens, and there was a guy that kind of looked familiar. It was right at the wall.
Just never know who you're going to see there. Do you see the logic of that? So it's just more and more proof. My dad, gallbladder problems. Why? Because he's eating a roast beef sandwich, right? So my dad is every day Gatorade and roast beef sandwich, Gatorade roast beef sandwich, and his stomach's tensing up on it, of course. So instead of stopping eating the Gatorade and the roast beef sandwich, he decides that he's going to have his gallbladder out. It's shocking, right? I don't know what we have to do. Like, if you're in pain because you're eating something, don't eat that. That's the end of the seminar, thank you. Right? It's like, geez, what do we have to do? Like, you're eating something and then it's hurting and you don't put it together. We need to put that together. So my dad was one of those cases. He's a doctor. Of course he's one of those cases. So his girlfriend is like, look, you're not going to go to a normal thing. We'll just get ozone, vitamin C, whatever. We'll take you over there. She had an appointment set up. He's like, no, I don't need it. I'm not doing any of that. Ozone, vitamin C, that's bullshit. I'm not doing that. Okay, so then they're driving to the hospital. She's like, look, I got you. We can do an outpatient thing. There's all kinds of these infections in hospitals. Let's go to this doctor. We'll just do it there. We don't have to go to the hospital. Like, I don't need to do that. I already got it set up. We'll go here. We'll go to whatever. We'll get this thing done. He goes in there, gets 3 hospital-based infections, and literally he was a couple days from death. No question about it. 3 weeks in, he was like going out for the last time. If you don't know what's going on in hospitals, basically what they do is when they have extra inventory of whatever it is, muscle relaxants, they just, let's just use it up on this guy because he can't move anyway. That's what they did on my dad. So they were putting muscle relaxants in it, and all kinds of stuff. We're like, what's that? You can't even get a straight answer from the hospital what they're putting into them. So looking at this situation, just by just sheer chance, I had 76 bottles of my gold, the Hormus Gold. And I had that in the car because we were doing a women's wellness conference. Literally, it was like weird that at all times that it happened right at that hospital, the nearest hospital, the location of the event. And I was like, you know what? This could save his ass. He's completely unconscious. I take 10 bottles, take it to his girlfriend. I go, here, put this on his face, on his mouth, on his bed sores, put it all over his body, pour it all over his, everything, as much as you can, every day, all 6 times a day, 10 times a day. 2 weeks later, he was out of that hospital. He snapped it. He's perfectly fine today, 79 years old. This is like 5 years ago. He recovered completely. He has no idea how or why. In fact, last time I saw him, he said that to me. He's like, the doctors think it's a miracle. I can't believe I survived. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'll tell you what a miracle is. The love that you got from that woman who put all that Hormus Gold all over you. That's one part of the miracle. The other part of the miracle is your son had the right thing for you, but you were so out of it, you don't even know it. And still doesn't know it. Still has no idea. But it's just his karma or whatever. It turned out like that. It just happened to be his karma. And I was like, man, this would save him. And I was like, yeah, I'll take 10 bottles. And it was 10 bottles. It didn't even take more. I thought it might take 20 or 30. It took 10 bottles. He was cured. What's that? It's a Hormus Gold product. So it's an isolated monoatomic gold product. Gold and all metals want to grip with each other. That's why we make like metal wires and stuff, metal necklaces and that kind of thing. And so when you can isolate, that product right there, when you can isolate the gold, there's different ways to isolate the gold ion, so it's separated and forced away from every other gold ion. So it's isolated, it actually changes from its metallic form into a ceramic form. And there's different ways to do that. We do it one way, and he does it another way. The product we have here is done another way, but it's the same product. Essentially, what you're doing is you're trying to isolate the gold atom, and so it can't get to the other ones to cling to them. This has very powerful magical properties, or whatever. It doesn't work along the normal thing. It's an alchemical product. Maybe that's alchemy. And in my opinion, that product right there, the way it's made, fits into the salt of gold. If you're into studying alchemy. So anyway, look at that story. All along the way, stop, don't do this. Here's another thing, do this instead. How about going over here? What about this? What about that? And he just, no. What I'm saying to you is, we're always doing that all the time, every day, every single one of us. And in fact, you'll be saved anyway. You'll be saved anyway, but eventually you're going to run out of lives. Right? Eventually, you're going to use up you're not a cat, so you have more than 9 lives. Maybe it's 33 lives. The Freemasons use 33, maybe there's something to it. So you're going to have certain, a number of chances, but then eventually your chances will run out until you go, why am I resisting this? So it's that internal resistance, right? Like, that's the fanaticism. You're so, this is it, this is that right there, I can't, nope, and that, no, and that's the whole thing. I just see that so much that we resist the thing that will heal us. We're against it. We fight it. Just putting that out there. That's a very important theme of all this, right? I'm not eating natural food, or whatever. It's like, oh my God. Just open yourself up to grace. Oh, I can't do it. Come on, I'm not sticking that tube up my ass. No way. It's like, if somebody comes at you and they're like, here, you got to do colonic, and I'm paying for it, and just do it. And then when you lose 10 pounds in 2 days, you can be like, I'm so glad I did that. Okay, let's keep going. A couple other things. We're going to break here.
Break here, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back, and in the last section, because we don't have much time, I think we're just going to do all questions and answers. So we just, some of you guys want to know how much charcoal, how much salt, how much water. We'll hit some of that stuff, and we'll just turn it all over to you. So write your questions down, and we'll hit it.
But during the break, this is the last chance to to the stores. We'll be closing at 5 o'clock at the end. And you can do book signings. Large chance for your book signing as well. If you want to get book signings done, please use the opportunity during this afternoon break to do that. And we'll start back after the break. Okay, thanks.
Okay, the one I love, the one I'm really into is you got to, if you're going to get pregnant, if you're planning on having a baby, you have to detoxify. We've seen now the research, this research has been going on for over a dozen years, that the chemicals of our civilization, there are 70,000 different chemicals, synthetic chemicals manufactured by our civilization every year, 70,000. And they end up in us, and they end up in particular in the umbilical cords of newborns. And so we have to protect ourselves. Charcoal is the safest, most effective, easiest to understand treatment for dealing with the chemicals of our civilization. Charcoal attracts heavy metals, charcoal attracts plastics and plasticizers like BPA. Charcoal attracts petroleum byproducts, pesticides, herbicides, into itself, locks it up, and then excretes it. Even the C60 is known to lock up the material inside its own cage-like structure and remove it from the brain, liver, kidneys, spleen, and other organs. Now that is a tremendous breakthrough. So at least thinking about this for a year before pregnancy is a really good idea. So you do an appropriate type of cleanse. This could also include juice fasting. It can also include water fasting. It can also include doing a thin down diet, so like a calorie restriction diet, so you burn off more of the fat, getting ketogenic, so you burn the fat off, and so you're getting more of the toxins out. Fat is a storage house for many of the toxins of our civilization. All the fat-soluble toxins do end up in our fatty tissue. And doing all other protocols that you're aware of and can think about. I like doing hot-cold. Sauna, 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 cold, cold, cold. Sauna, 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 cold, cold, cold. What's that? Expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. The next piece of that is the honey, royal jelly, propolis, bee pollen combination. So you mix those all together like a goo. Now if you're a vegan, that's not going to work for you. So then we do like a Vedic formula. There's also Chinese formulas that are great. The Vedic formula I like is Tulsi on the front end, ashwagandha and mucuna, right here and there, because this is how you construct an herbal formula. That's why I'm doing it like this, right? It's always like the front one, then you have your two supporting, and then you got your third, which would be shilajit, which bottoms it out and kind of seals the deal. Those kinds of formulas have been used for thousands of years, and therefore we're going to defer to those because they have such a history. We don't know, that's the thing about Western civilization. We think we know everything, except we polluted everything. So that means we didn't really know anything. Right? We left a mess behind, and the future generations are going to have to clean it up. And that means we got a lot to learn yet. And so getting out of believing that we know everything helps us to understand ancient wisdom and utilize it. Great question. Okay, let's go over this side. Yes? Why have I got shoes on? Because this has a very strong, this is actually the Bua shoe. So my friend Justin Bua is a famous artist. You can see there's his art right there. I don't know if you can see that. But this shoe has it doesn't bend very good. Yeah, it doesn't bend here, so that's good for my foot because it keeps me from having to bend that toe, which is where the problem is with my broken foot. So it's getting better, and I wore this on a TV show that I had to do because I couldn't wear the cast on the show, and it worked. So I thought, well, today let's give it a try. We're going to see what works, and it's been working. I think I'm okay. I can feel a little bit of swelling happening, but nowhere near as bad, so things are good. Oh, grounding. I wouldn't go barefoot on this floor, but I do recommend highly and very strongly that you get grounded as much as possible whenever possible. One of the things I like about hot-cold is when you get in that cold water has vastly more energy in it. Just think about that for a second. What does that mean? If I throw you in hot water, you're going to go like this. Oh, dude, I'm good, yeah. Now let's say we're like, hey, go in there. Boom, you get thrown into cold water. What happens? Your you have energy, you're fast, your reflexes are alarmingly sharp. That's the power of cold water. It's in the water. Cold water has more electricity in it, and you feel it. And so we like to do that hot-cold. I'm friends with Wim Hof for 20 years. I've gone around the world promoting hot-cold therapy. And Wim Hof came along, and finally we cracked through. Finally we got it to a level like, boom, this is a big thing now. And so that's why I like hanging out with Wim Hof, because you don't have to convince him to jump in the cold water. There's no convincing involved. He's going to do it. That's great. And that's the thing about yourself. You got to know that, like, hey, if I get in that cold water, there's a benefit there, and that will help you to get into it. That's how I think about it. If I get in, I know I'm going to feel amazing, so I get in. Okay, question over here.
On the other end of the scale from fertility, what would aim in bending those?
With menopause, okay, what happens in menopause if you're healthy, non-toxic, and you have a pretty good metabolism, you've watched what you've eaten for decades, what typically happens is your hormones drop off, but the progesterone drops off faster than the estrogen. Now that can cause excessive bleeding. It definitely can cause erratic thoughts and behavior. I'm dealing with an employee who's in this situation right now. And pretty much you can tell exactly what's going to be the best thing in that situation. And what that's going to be is it's going to be a progesterone cream to help boot the system back up, so that you get that progesterone up close to where the estrogens are, and you don't get that dramatic delta, right? The delta is the difference. Normally estrogens are higher than progesterone, but not much higher. But when that menopause happens, progesterone drops off rapidly. If you look into the theory about this is kind of the Suzanne Summers thing that she's been promoting for decades now. The theory is that once your progesterone drops off, it's kind of nature saying, hey, you're no longer reproducing, we're getting rid of you. So you got to be careful at that stage, because if you want to last here, you might want to go, oh, wait a second, what am I going to do herbally, and what am I going to do with all the technology that we have to save myself so that I last here longer? Progesterone is the most powerful thing. Progesterone can be created by any chemist in a morning from yam. And yes, progesterone can be created from the Chinese yam, by the way, and is created from the Chinese yam.
There's one bioidentical progesterone that's available on the NHS.
One. Which one is it?
I've got it written down. It's called progesterone. I can show you.
Progest-E? Is it Progest-E?
I don't know. But I know there's one.
There's one. Okay, so what does progesterone do? Progesterone is actually going to bring everything back up so that you're able to get back to like you were when you were younger. Now, the thing about progesterone is if you look into it, this is one of those things that when you dig into this, you'll be shocked to find this. You'll find that progesterone is anti every single disease there is. Progesterone fights cancer, every single arthritis condition, every autoimmune condition, just goes on and on and on. Progesterone is a much more powerful hormone than any other hormone in the human body, male or female. And I believe it's progesterone that causes women to live longer. So if you naturally have high progesterone, you will live a long time. You can live over 100 or even 110 because of progesterone. Progesterone is not volatile. Testosterone is volatile. Testosterone can flip over and become a toxic estrogen and start causing a cancer to spread or a prostate problem to get inflamed because it's one step away. Progesterone is 3 steps away from becoming a toxic hormone metabolite. Best way to describe it. Now let's get into this a little bit. If you look into this, you get on the internet and start digging into this, you'll find out that they're trying to mix progesterone with progestins and muddle the information. Now, who are they? Big corporate pharmaceutical interests, which, by the way, are not the interests of this nation or this people or any nation or any people. These are transnational corporations, and we've already seen that they're involved in organized crime. So they are going out on the internet and they're deliberately muddling the waters and trying to drag progesterone into the same categories as progestin. Progestins can be problematic. Progesterone, no. So just something to look out for. There are also great formulas, especially Vedic formulas, like a Tulsi Shatavari formula that's really good. So as you get, when you're 20, you can get away with anything. right? 30, you can get away with all that. But once you get to like 49, you're like, what's going on here? But beyond that, you have to be careful. You have to actually be on a better nutrition and herbal protocol. You can't get away with what you did when you were younger. And so I look at it like a traditional formula, like a Shatavari, Tulsi, Shilajit formula is a good one. Right? So with the progesterone cream, it bumps it back up. It'll just shut the symptoms off immediately, which is very important. Progesterone also, by the way, interestingly, is what allows a woman's brain to multitask better than a man's brain. So to have ultimate peak performance, brain activity, to be sharp and outwit everybody, as you age, you got to make sure that progesterone stays up. One of the best ways to test this, by the way, is an end of the finger prick test. And zrtlab.com. Order a kit, and you prick your finger, do 10 swatches, send it in. They'll tell you exactly where your hormones are. Typically, if you're a healthy menopausal woman, your estrogens are going to be dropping down, but your progesterone can be very dangerously low. Okay, question here. Yeah, progesterone will stop hot flashes. Yeah, the delta there, the difference between the estrogen and the progesterone is what's causing a hot flash. As soon as you get that progesterone up within, let's say you put it on topically, you don't need much. It's not like a lotion. It's like a little tiny little amount, maybe here or in the groin or under your arm, and you move it around and you change the time of day that you do it, and you do it for 14 days on, 14 days off, 14 days on, 14 days off, and then what will happen is, right immediately, the first day, if you're having a hot flash, within an hour it's gone. And that's going to teach you something. So there is hope and there is definitely help out there. Over the counter in America, you can get progesterone, the straight Progest-E, at any drugstore in America. It's a legal thing. I don't know how it is here. It's not like that here. You can't get it all from here. So this is one of the, it's like a little, you can get a little Progest-E thing like this that'll last you half a year, 6 months, a little vial, and get 2 of them. And next time somebody goes over to America, you go like, hey, can you give me a little progesterone thing? And just have it. Do you need to use it all the time for the rest of your life? No. Because once you pick it back up, it can actually stay up for a while. And then gradually, if you go back down, then you pick it back up again. And so it can be used therapeutically like that, where you do 14 days on, 14 days off, 14 days on, 14 days off, and then you're good. And you can be good for a while. It might be good for a year or 2 years. And then it might start happening again, and you kick it back up again. Great question. Okay, let's go over here. We'll go try and get everybody, so let's go this way. Oh, you remind me of what I forgot to mention. Somebody mentioned, remember I mentioned Dr. Who? And then I got off into Nygaard. So Nygaard introduced me to Dr. Who. He's the top, Nygaard went and met all the top stem cell doctors all around the world. And he introduced me to Dr. Who. And Dr. Who had success in China injecting the pancreas directly with stem cells and curing type 1 diabetes. Curing. Now, they're curing type 1 diabetes in China, but not here. Why is that? Because we're free.
I just asked the question, my daughter was type 1 and she was 1 and she was very now. We thought that we put quite a lot of money into stem cell research and it will save the NHS well of money. It's free for us here. So I just wondered why she's not here because I suppose it is something we
There's definitely, the definite thing that Dr. Who told me is you have to inject the pancreas directly with stem cells. That was the key discovery for him. And they've had, at that time, they had a trial that had gone, these people had gone a year without a recurrence of diabetes type 1. So that was amazing. Where do you get that treatment? You're probably going to have to hunt that down in China. I don't know where to send you, but I know that they were constructing a stem cell facility in Macau, which is like the gambling thing in Las Vegas of China. And I'm connected with a few of those guys, like the Nygaard family, who know about that project. So I'm just going to keep informing you as that comes about or as I know more about it. Unfortunately, because I'm not a diabetic type 1, I don't really keep an eye on that like some of you who's a diabetic type 1, which you're diabetic type 1, that becomes a very intense focus for you. But Dr. Who did tell me that, and I laid into him like like, give me the details, blah, blah, blah. He had a lot to tell me. It was a very interesting meeting. It was the first and only time I ever played golf. I will never play golf again. Okay, so let's go over here. I never heard of Slackstone Dialectic Water Systems. I have heard of that, and carnosine and flavonoids, very good anti-aging therapy. And I have a doctor friend, Dr. Dave Wojnarowski, who's really into that. Because I'm more of a food guy, I never could really get into the amino acids, because there's only so much you can eat, right? There's only so many things you can take. So you have to at some point, you have to kind of go, okay, which direction of research am I doing? And my research is on superfoods and super herbs and food. And I'm not so much into isolated amino acids or amino acid groupings. That doesn't mean they're good or they're bad. Doesn't mean they're, they can't have therapeutic value. They could be the best thing ever of all time. I just haven't had time to dig into it. But I have friends who are into it. So yeah, their focus has been on anti-aging with carnosine flavonoids, but I'm sure they would know more about it than I do. Great. Okay, question here.
What suggestions can you give for adrenal fatigue?
Adrenal fatigue, number one thing, water and salt. Number two thing, grounding. Being grounded, being on the earth. Basically, this thing of being separated from the earth like we are right now, we're not on the earth, is causing a very large problem for all of us, which is we're running out of gas. We're running out of petrol. It's like we should be getting electricity from the earth. We're separated from the earth, and therefore we suffer. So you've got to get some time on the sand, some time on the earth, sometime barefoot. Next thing is just nutritional problems, right? Cellular membrane problems. That's where the omega-3s come in. That's where the right oils and fats come in. Basically, a diabetes type 2, it's a syndrome. Adrenal exhaustion is a syndrome, and they're similar in the sense that you run out of energy, your body has to give up on certain battles, go, we can't fight that battle, fight this, and we're going to deal with this over here, this crisis. And so we just go at it nutritionally, step by step by step. Now, some people can be adrenally fatigued because they have Epstein-Barr. They might have a viral condition. So then we get to the antivirals. Let me just list a few antivirals, because not everything is antiviral. I mentioned, if you recall, remember that woman that 95% of her body was covered, right? Remember that whole thing? What was that? Let's see who remembers that. Right, but what did she take? She took reishi and what? Alcohol. The medicinal mushrooms in alcohol extracts their antiviral properties, especially chaga and reishi, especially those two. And you don't actually need a whole list of all the other ones. If you just get onto one or two, that's it, the king and the queen, chaga and reishi. You don't need much else. Aged garlic extracts and garlic. Now you can't have garlic every day. I saw the look on this must be your wife. You could try eating garlic every day, but you're... What's that?
I use garlic every day, and you don't get the breath and the issues that you do eating. Like, I notice the difference when I eat garlic. I can tell I eat garlic, but when I drink garlic.
I got a story to tell you, I'm not going to do it today, about juicing 80 cloves of garlic before a date.
It's been 25 years and it still tells that story.
I was, you have your first love, right? So I'm 14 years old, this young girl, she was the cutest ever, she was like the cutest girl in the school, and I finally got her phone number. And so I finally, the first girl I ever called on the phone when I was like in 8th grade, like 13 years old and whatever. And she had this like little, cute little fling, like 13, 14 years old. And then after 14, I never saw her again. One day I'm in an airport in San Diego, California, and I think Christopher's getting ready are you going to tell the story?
It's on his assistant.
Oh, I thought you were going to come up. He knows the story, so. She is walking by. There she was, all of a sudden in front, like 10 years later, 24. And I was like, Michelle. And she looked at me, and she's like, You talking to me? I was like, yeah, it's me. Like, who are you? So finally, I got through and like, hey, it's me, Dave Wolf, went to Bell Junior High School together, blah, blah, blah. And it's also she's like, oh, I remember you. And so then we started dating. And then I was at my cousin's house, and that was back in the days of like massive raw foods action. Like 30 oranges, 40 apples, 5 stalks of celery, bags of carrots this big, and 2 bulbs of garlic went in. I'm talking like 80 cloves. And like an hour later, I'm like, oh my God, it's like coming down my pores. I tried all the natural stuff. I took 3 showers. I scrubbed my tongue, everything. That didn't work. The garlic just overwhelmed it. Then I started the unnatural stuff, scope, Listerine, all that. So then I had this date. Finally, like the date's there, I gotta go. So I go down the road and done the date. And that's why I was at my cousin's house. I was close to the place where the date was, at this girl's house. And the mom was there. I was like, thank God. She's going to get in the way. I can get out of here fast. Mom's like, okay, bye, honey. I'll leave you guys. Have a great night. And I was like, oh, no. So she's basically like walking around. Like, I'm like on the other side of the table over here. She's over there. She's trying to get to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go over here. I'm like, squeezing around over here. Going like this over there. Then she backs me up the stairs. So she's like, yeah, let's go upstairs. I'm like, yeah, well, I think I have to go. And so backing up the stairs like this. Next thing I know, I'm in her room. Now she had 2 beds in her room. So I thought, I'll just sit on this one side, and she'll sit on the other, and I just try to get out of here as quickly as possible. All of a sudden, boom, she's next to me on the bed. So I'm kind of sneaking on the bed closer to the pillow. I'm like moving over here, like, yeah, I'm just gonna go over here. She comes in for the kiss. I mean, there's certain, it's like really nice when a woman is forward like that at the right time, but it just was like the wrong time. So she's like coming in for the kiss, and she's like, is that, your breath stinks. I was like, oh yeah, we have garlic. We had garlic, and it was an accident, and accidentally ate cloves. And she's like, I hate garlic, and I hate garlic breath. And I was crushed. So I left, and I never saw her again. But we did later, like recently, in the last 2 years, become friends on Facebook. Okay, back to antivirals. Aged garlic extract. Cat's claw is one of the great ones. So if you're really studying Lyme disease, you're really studying the power of invasive species. You guys know about invasive species when I say that, what that means? Like certain plants that just take over, and they're problematic. Now, you tell me if this is random. The cure to Lyme disease, the best medicine there is Japanese knotweed, or Polygonum cuspidatum. And it's growing and invasive, intensely invasive. Wasn't even there when I was a kid growing up there in the 70s in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Intensely invasive. And it's like the lake root, the Chinese yam. It goes deep. It can go right to this point. 3 meters down. This is a root that can go, this is a plant, it's not a tree. 3 meters down. So let's say you're like, oh, okay, we're going to put a building in, we got to roll this thing down, and get all this Japanese knotweed out of here. You don't get it all. It'll pop up on the side of the building. You can't get rid of it. Invasive species tell us what we need. And that's the power of cat's claw. It's an invasive species. It's telling us what we need. And cat's claw is one, if you look into it, one of the most powerful things against Lyme disease. Japanese knotweed, the initial phase of Astragalus for sure, sarsaparilla, and cat's claw. Another very powerful antiviral, great one. So the alcohol extracts, the medicinal mushrooms, aged garlic extracts, cat's claw. Echinacea is another one, but it's more for like flu viruses. You can't take it every day. Right? Aged garlic extract you can take every day. Not garlic, but aged garlic extract. Medicinal mushroom and alcohol, you can take that every day. Cat's paw, you can take that every day, but not echinacea. So you have to kind of back off, take it back off. There are other ones. Olive leaf extract is a very good antiviral, and just one I love because I love olive trees. So olive leaf extract. And, what's that? Propolis is good. Propolis is a good antiviral. One I mentioned also, humic acid is another one. Humic acid, we got a whole bunch of humic acid at my house recently. I ordered it from a friend of mine, he said the wrong product. I was like, okay, we'll just eat it. And it's just amazing. It's like basically eating toast. Okay. More questions? Yeah. What that means is that you can either make it yourself or you get a product with let's say the shot